Ladies and gentlemen, wow, this Thursday, the 8th day of February 2018 is kicking off with a bang. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is 450 plus points down as we speak. And so much more is also unfolding on the economic front as the globalists go into absolute, complete, and total high gear, trying to shut this economy down. We've also got fake news alert. The story's on newswars.com. And as soon as I read it, I just asked Kit, one of the editors, to change the headline because it's not strong enough. It's fake news, MSM, Trump and influx of Russians attend national prayer breakfast. CNN singles out 60 Russians out of 3,800 people. But then we looked at who was there leading the delegation of Russians. It's the woman funded by George Soros, on record, the Russian Playboy model, who is funded by Soros and is running against Putin. So that's next level. Soros-funded group, and they admit of the prominent people there, they're all anti-Putin and anti-Trump. They then show up, and the media doesn't even tell people that, oh, by the way, this is the opposition to Putin. That's how stupid they think you are. So I said, change the headline to fake news. Soros-funded Russians attend prayer breakfast to embarrass the president and don't report, that's the subheadline, and fail to report that the prominent Russians that reportedly were going are anti-Putin, running against Putin. You cannot make that level of deception up. It's just only happens in the real world. Truth is stranger than fiction. Now, that said, I knew when I saw this a few days ago when Trump said he wants a military parade to honor our military, that he was baiting the military, not the military, that he was baiting the leftists and the globalists to then show their real colors and attack the military. Just like whenever he goes after the NFL, for not kneeling, they show their true colors. He's totally and completely trolled them in a massive, massive, massive way. But then I remembered, I said, didn't Drudge call for a military parade? And then this morning I saw the headlines where they had pointed that out. Matt Drudge last year on May 9th said Trump needs a military parade like in Russia. We haven't had it since 1991. And the whole point is we're supposed to be ashamed of the military, we're supposed to hate the military. I'm not saying worship the military, but if the globalists are trying to demoralize our country, make us hate our military, hate our police, hate our local governments, which is admittedly in the WikiLeaks, so they can come in with their leftist overthrow, and then you'll really have a military problem. With leftists controlling it, it'll be in your streets. It's incredible. I mean, I wrote the book in Modern History on being concerned about the military being used for domestic control because the military alerted me to it. That Clinton and Obama and others were trying to massively gear up to use them against gun owners and others. The media spun it that I was anti-U.S. military. When it couldn't be further from the truth, I was against our military being taken control of by bad folks. So they're trying to kill nationalism. They're trying to kill esprit de corps. They're trying to kill any type of national honor or pride. The Ninth Circuit rules you can't wear American flags in California schools. It's a hate symbol. The answer is do what they don't like. Go back to that other end. You're nowhere near the extreme of some right-wing military dictatorship like they're now saying. And when we come back, Tiananmen Square, ladies and gentlemen, Democrats are saying if there is a military parade, they're going to lay out in front of the tanks and trucks and men and women like they're fighting a communist regime. No, in Tiananmen Square, again, the people were fighting a communist regime. You are the communist and the globalists fighting an American free market regime. So it's all coming up on this big Thursday global transmission. We're going to have wide open phones. We're going to watch the stock market and play clips from Trump's big prayer breakfast and more. I'm Alex Jones. We're in an information war. Please spread all the links and live feeds to the four winds. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, the 8th day of February 2018. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Remember June 5th, 1989? The Communist News Network covered the Communist Chinese government crushing a student peaceful uprising, calling for free speech and calling for free market reforms and religious freedom in China, where peaceful Christians and Buddhists are held in captivity by the millions and their organs sold. For simply calling for that to stop, thousands were machine gunned and run over with tanks. We can pull up some of that graphic footage, but I think I'll spare the viewers and listeners. 2 days ago, President Trump came out and announced that he was going to call for a military parade. That's why they really hate Trump, because Matt Drudge had that idea last year, pushed it, and I know for a fact that's what made Trump even think of it. And see, it's the access that the people have. If you get a letter to Trump, or if he reads something on Drudge or InfoWars, and he thinks it makes sense, he'll look into it and then he'll do it. Just like he learned from InfoWars that Sheriff Joe was under indictment and then had been convicted by a judge alone and was going to prison. He made some phone calls, couldn't believe it. He said, why hasn't that been on Fox? He found out it was true, and he did it. And the White House admitted, yeah, they got the information from Dr. Jerome Corsi, who hand-delivered it to the White House, and got it through to the president. They hate that type of access, you see, because normally it's big globalist boards. It's big globalist boards that decide everything, and then it's given in policy, and those boards are all in control. Those multinationals hand down the directive, the think tanks come up with how to deploy the policy, it then goes back to the boards, and then back to the think tanks to be codified and put out in reports. And then those reports are adopted as the global system policy. With Trump, it's what makes sense. An old lady hands him a news clipping, you know, in a line taking photos, or he gets a news article from alternative news, checks into it, finds out it's true. He does something. He's real. He's not an elitist. And that's what they hate. Now, why did I start the broadcast with Tiananmen Square? The left on CNN, I know it's been mentioned in the Washington Post. I've seen video clips by leftist activists online. One of them is on Infowars.com, are saying, we're going to lay out like Tiananmen Square in front of the tanks. Well, number one, those were students fighting communists and globalists and elitists. That's what you're supporting. So the students died and got run over and machine gunned to be able to demonstrate peacefully in the supposed People's Square. I mean, you notice nobody's in that square now when those tanks came in, because they'd kill you if you were. There's a famous image of the man standing in front of the tank. But as soon as nightfall fell, those were local tanks that knew the locals. They had brought people in from a province 800 miles away, and it took them time to get down there. And boy, when they got there early that next morning, when the first trucks got there, they started machine gunning everybody. And they climbed in those tanks that the locals wouldn't drive over people, and they ran over whole families. You can go watch the raw footage on YouTube. You got a stomach for it. So now they're saying they've got at least 13 people signed up to lay in front of tanks. So, A, these were people protesting peacefully a murderous communist regime. And now you're communists in America protesting a parade for the military. Our military isn't coming to conquer us and run us over in the streets. If we had one of these parades, it's to provoke you and show how anti-American you are and how much you hate this country and how much you hate the military. So, A, you're being chumped by Trump. You don't think the ultimate troll for goodness, Trump didn't know you're going to have convulsions over a military parade, and we're going to have it, and you rats are going to go out there. No need to stage a false flag. You'll probably bomb it. Not this particular Ern Merconi, but others. Other leftists and Antifa are calling for violence, calling for shooting cops. CNN said when cops are getting killed, they said, well, they better clean their act up. They deserve it. And, of course, even Politico now understands and admits it's political genius that he has trolled them massively. And you've got all these college dwellers, all these lazy, stupid, foppish, sycophantic, candy-butted pseudo-intellectuals sitting in the midst of this big, rotting free market bazaar that they're trying to completely destroy so they can live like they do in Venezuela. I hear it's a nice time in Venezuela right now. So imagine the leftists are saying, don't have your parade, you can't have it. CNN, MSNBC are saying it's horrible, it's fascism. Oh, he's like North Korea. And, oh, this is a show of force, a force of domination. We need to oppose it. But meanwhile, when I tried to get into the inauguration, for 3 hours, we couldn't get in. They were beating up men, women, and children. The Antifa and the Black Lives Matter, who were about 99% white, by the way. I'm just telling you, that's the fact. But they weren't at the VIP area. Oh, you could get in real easy there. So I just said, well, let's go to the VIP area, even though it's on the other end. And then CNN said nobody was there because it took hours to get in because they blocked the entrances. And they showed that image saying nobody's there. Again, that's the total deception. But once people got in, it was a record crowd. Everything is a lie with these people. In Tiananmen Square, the people were opposing communism, authoritarianism. Trump isn't one to have this parade to occupy cities. It's a parade to honor the veterans, their families, those that have fallen, those that have been wounded, those that have been maimed, those that have been disabled. And it's about Americanism and nationalism. We, the people, are taking back control of our country from the globalists, from the multinational authoritarianism. But then you see the type of people that block and spit on our reporters and attack me and everything else in New York at the women's marches a few weeks ago and at other events. Let's roll some of that, either as B-roll or with audio if it's bleeped. Of these folks, how they act, they can have their parades and nobody stops them. Women dressed up as giant vaginas simulating sex acts on each other in front of children. That's on screen right now if you're a TV viewer. This is going on, but, oh, we can't have the military parade because people like this are going to come block it and then spit on everybody and run around acting like a bunch of miscreants. It's a celebration of being idiots. It's a celebration of being morons. It's a celebration of being fools. And everything they claim they oppose is what they are. Cussing and spitting and yelling at our female and male reporters, physically attacking them, acting completely mentally ill, not as a small group of the overall group, full-grown men running over and sticking their butts in the face of Millie and farting into the microphone in front of their wives. Just, it's all about infantile behavior. Arrested development, people living in this big, open, free system and then using that against it and then hating the very thing like mentally ill toddlers that have taken a huge dose of PCP. So here's activist Arne Merconi calls for people to lay in front of tanks as if they're Tiananmen Square, as if they have the same courage because the tanks are coming to kill them and the trucks are coming with the soldiers with the rifles. No, you're coming to block our free speech. Just like the Chinese communist tankers were. You are the people in the tanks, and our military is to stop you when you have your violent uprisings and try to enslave us. Let's play that clip.
This is becoming an authoritarian state, and we need a grassroots effort today. If you can see what I've been posting over the last few hours is that journalists, politicians, and anti-war movement groups are starting to build up the worrying, build up the story, build up the tension. We have to turn this into a 3-day story. And what I want people to do is to commit, just like I will, that we would go to Washington, D.C. if such a crazy, insane act occurred, and we would lay down in front of the tanks, just like the heroes and the courageous students did in China in 1989. They need to hear our voices. This isn't clickbait for the media. This is
stop right there. The tanks were coming to stop free speech. You're trying to block free speech. The tanks aren't coming to conquer. It's a parade. You're not just like the people in Tiananmen Square. You're just like the communist that ordered those tanks out. And, of course, that's the stuff you promote at the universities. You are the problem. You are the cancer. You are the enemy. You will be defeated. Ksenia Sobchak is the Russian Playboy model who's running for president against Putin, and she reportedly attended the prayer breakfast we're going to play some excerpts of in the next segment. And they said, oh, look, there's Russians everywhere because Trump's a Russian. And then you read the prominent Russians that came. They're all a bunch of Soros Open Society funded people where they've spent billions of dollars of State Department and Soros money that he swindled from different countries, manipulating currencies to try to overthrow Russia. But if you're literate about who's who, it's incredible. But if you turn on ABC or CBS or NBC, yesterday and today, it's done, done, done. There's a whole bunch of Russians at the event. What's going on? Thought you're not working with the Russians. But then right next to it, in the same publications like Newsweek, they'll admit that Trump's opposition, excuse me, Putin's opposition, but also against Trump because they don't want peace, the Soros lady is going to the breakfast and did go to the breakfast. TV presenter known as the Russian Paris Hilton and Putin's presidential rival has been invited to Trump's national prayer breakfast. Reportedly, she attended. So again, they previously admitted who she was. They still admit she's the opposition, that others are opposition, but they still run with headlines saying, whoa, a lot of eyebrows getting raised, a lot of Russians. This is the stunt they pull. And then you see the left foaming at the mouth, saying they're going to attack the Veterans Parade that President Trump has announced. That they're going to lie down in front of the tanks because they're heroes like the people in Tiananmen Square. When again, the people in Tiananmen Square were fighting communism peacefully, saying we're not allowed to demonstrate. We are going to demonstrate. It was a student, peaceful demonstration that ended in thousands and thousands killed and thousands then arrested and sent to prison or executed. Fighting leftist, anti-free speech, authoritarianism. It is the left at college campuses across this country that first started banning words like the N-word out of literature that was actually against racism, and then moved on now to Martin Luther King because he said all God's children, black, white, yellow, red, and brown. They said, well, where's the trans? Where's the... You've got to remove Martin Luther King's speech off the wall. Oh, we don't want masculine images of the football team in the sports athletic mural. Take that down because it shows masculine men, toxic masculinity, and it shows toxic femininity, as they call it, the stereotypes of a woman with full breast, small waist, full hips. They're assaulting classical feminism. They're assaulting classical male prowess. All of this is about these movements taking control of every subgroup and every strata and then dictating what it is to be a man or a woman. And I know I said yesterday that I would get to this, and I will get to it at the bottom of the next hour, breaking down. We've decoded exactly what this whole program is about, and it's the end of human biology. And they are now going into high gear, basically admitting this entire program. That's what's so interesting now is they're admitting the plan, going, transgenderism is going to make us have less kids. Well, that's always been the plan. I know the runoff in the water is good. It's making us have less kids. It is a directed program. There it is. College wants to censor Martin Luther King. I have a dream speech. Here's why. Yeah, they're taking down his murals. They're taking down his speeches. They're taking down quotes off the walls. It's happening everywhere. Oh, this hall is called Lynch Hall. We want that name taken off. It's scary because it reminds us of lynching. Total mental illness. And then they do change the name of it, not because the schools are scared. They're the ones creating the mental illness. They're the ones creating the war on language, the war on debate, the war on free speech, the war on ideas. And so think about this again. You've got leftists on CNN, MSNBC, everywhere, saying Trump's an authoritarian for wanting to have a military parade. Or Trump's a North Korean, or Trump's a fascist. But now you've got Democrats coming out saying, no, we're going to be heroes and go attack it and block the tanks. When it's not tanks coming to crush people's free speech at the university that was off of Tiananmen Square, like the communists did. It's a celebration for those that have fought and those that have died. They also show once a year V-Day parades. What is it, May 9th in Russia? For the 20 million Russians that died, what, 20-something% or more of their population in World War II, 22 million Germans died. That was well over a third of their population. And they show every year Putin having the Victory Day, May 9th. They show it and go, look, he's got a parade threatening us. Putin's got a parade threatening us when the French and the Mexicans and the South Africans, everybody else has military parades. People have parades for the police. They have them for fire departments. They have them to raise money for little kids. They have them for everything. Having a military doesn't make you fascist or communist. Having a fascist or communist government makes you that. It's like saying if we have police, they're all bad because police are corrupt in some areas of Latin America or Asia or Africa. So in Russia, it's called the Patriotic War, and almost everybody lost family or large parts of their family or whole families. And so most people living have grandparents or great-grandparents that were killed in the war. So it's called the Great Patriotic War because Russia did 90% of the fighting in World War II. Doesn't take away from the Marines and the U.S. took care of the Pacific and what happened in Europe. But the 90% of fighting the Nazis was the Russians. That was the big war in Russia. That's where almost all the Germans died. You can look it up. That's where almost all the Russians died, was in Russia and in Germany. That's where the big fighting happened. Yes, the U.S. and England drove the Russians out of North Africa. My dad's dad was part of that. There was heavy fighting going into Italy. Heavy fighting. Hundreds, it was 600,000 something, U.S., I'm going from memory, died. Big war. Not as big as our Civil War. That killed millions. But for Russia, it's 20-plus times the number of troops lost that we lost. So our media then, I'm not defending Russia, I'm defending the truth. That's what Victory Day is, not what our media says. It shows how it's all lies. They send the lady running against Putin. They send the lady running against Putin to the prayer breakfast to say, look, he's a Russian, Trump's a Russian because he's got people there. This is the deception. This is the manipulation. And now the very universities that are bringing in Soviet-style or communist Chinese-style censorship and bans on free speech and saying no demonstrations for conservatives and no white day at the school and kicking the professors out and true Maoist-like stuff, they're the ones coming like Tiananmen Square and shutting down the free speech in the square. And now they take a communist event like Tiananmen Square and conflate it and project it onto Trump if he has a parade or if Russia has a parade, when it's the very people that love Tiananmen Square and the crushing of free speech, the American left that are allied with the communist Chinese that are engaging in this entire operation. It just hit me today like a ton of bricks. Hit me so hard. And I was thinking about the hypocrisy of leftists in this country with Antifa hitting people in the head with bike locks, stabbing people, bombing things, attacking their cars, spitting on my reporters, dumping coffee on my head, CNN having them on saying violence is good against the right wing. It just hit me that they are like the communist Chinese at Tiananmen Square in 1989 when they go out and engage in violence to stop our free speech. Anytime libertarians, conservatives, Trump supporters, you name it, try to have an event, Antifa even comes out with AK-47s in Austin and won't let my reporters on the Capitol grounds to be able to cover a woman who was killed by an illegal alien, and the illegal alien gets off. We go to a vigil, and they are attacking men, women, and children and pushing them and hitting them and not letting them get into the event, and the police stand there and look on while the left intimidate, and Antifa calls for killing cops, and cops are getting shot in the back. All this Weatherman-style tactic, and then they've got the nerve to have professors and leftist activists on CNN, MSNBC. We played clips of some of them earlier saying, Trump's a fascist, lay in front of the tanks if he has a military parade. When it was the communist Chinese coming in to the university that's right there, their biggest university in China, right off Tiananmen Square. It was the student groups wanting free speech, wanting to be like America, wanting to have free market, wanting to have religious freedom. And they got run over, they got killed, they got massacred once the sun went down. And we all know that. And the left is doing that on a micro level all over the country, everywhere. And they're doing it all over the country to our free speech. And then they sit up and say, we're going to block a military parade tanks, implying tanks are coming to kill them, when it's honoring the veterans that have fought and been wounded and died and their families that have given up so much. They're the ones, again, trying to keep us from going into the inauguration. They're the ones attacking families. They're the ones spitting on us. They're the ones hitting us. They're the ones attacking women and just dragging them off into mobs to be physically, have 7 or 8 bones broken and stopping rallies and stopping free speech and stopping Milo from speaking and stopping Ann Coulter and trying to stop me from speaking and trying to stop Mike Cernovich. They are flaming, out of control, evil authoritarians stopping free speech just like in Tiananmen Square and doing it with force and beating people up. We're showing some of the footage here. This is nothing compared to the footage. I mean, the bike locks and the women being dragged off and women being beaten over the head with Mexican flags and blood coming out of people's heads, all of it. We've seen it. And then they've got the nerve to say, we're the ones like Tiananmen Square. We're the ones who are going to face down tanks as if the tanks are coming to kill them if we have a parade. And then they're going to be the ones blocking other people's speech and then saying they're heroes like Tiananmen Square standing up for speech when the left are the ones calling for violence and carrying it out everywhere. They now have 50 people just by this one academic individual, Arn Mercani, to carry this out. It's unbelievable. And the media is so distorted, they'll probably say that just like Tiananmen Square, they're in front of the tanks. When, again, the Tiananmen Square, they were coming to crush the free speech. You're the ones getting in front of the free speech, blocking it, because you can't stand to see people have public events you don't control. You are like the communist Chinese, and guess what? You're allied with them. And guess what the weathermen say? They say they wanted communist Chinese-style takeover in this country. They say they want that event. They say they want that to unfold. And again, we're just showing when they did block the tanks during the day. You can type into the search engine if you want to see the massacre at Tiananmen Square. Massacre footage, nighttime footage. Tanks just running over a bunch of people, shooting people, men, women, and children dead all over the place. And then some little effeminate thug with his little high-tech capitalist computer watch and his little sports jersey can sit there and direct everyone to be heroes like Tiananmen when he is the tanks at Tiananmen coming to crush the free speech. He is the tanks of Soros and the leftists coming to stop our military parade to honor our veterans. And the fact that we let scum like this do that is on us. And you can see it when they have the parade. The news will be heroes like Tiananmen. When they're the leftist, they back the communist Chinese, they're banning free speech at the colleges everywhere. They are exactly what they say they're opposing. Another leftist dirtball telling us that they are out there standing up against authoritarianism when they are what they're supposedly opposing. It's sick, isn't it? How immoral and how distorted and how twisted and how upside down and how deceptive. But do you think this guy, however you pronounce his name, do you think he is even conscious enough or self-aware enough to know what a contradiction he is? Get him off the screen. I can't look at it anymore. He goes, we will be like the people. You know, since I played him so much, let's play his whole statement here. So you can actually hear it from his own disgusting mouth, how he wants to stop our free speech, and then he'll be like a hero, like the people at Tiananmen Square standing up for free speech and being killed.
This is becoming an authoritarian state, and we need a grassroots effort today. If you can see what I've been posting over the last few hours is that journalists, politicians, and anti-war movement groups are starting to build up the worrying, build up the story, build up the tension. We have to turn this into a 3-day story. And what I want people to do is to commit, just like I will, that we would go to Washington, D.C. if such a crazy, insane act occurred, and we would lay down in front of the tanks, just like the heroes and the courageous students did in China in 1989. They need to hear our voices. This isn't clickbait for the media. This isn't something that the big shots do. This is something that you and I can do. Now, I've been watching some of the comments under my feed. Some people say, oh, I don't have the money to do it. Oh, I can't do this. How are we going to get there? Commit. Commit. I've never figured out how I'm going to get there, who I'm going to get there. It's out of what I believe in. And I do not believe that we live in a military authoritarian state to that level.
You guys are the ones going around trying to give everybody's free speech and saying lock people up. You're the ones trying to get rid of the English language. You're the ones trying to destroy our sovereignty. Oh, commit and put your body down like a tank's going to run over you in America. So you can, like, live action role play that you're heroes. Instead of playing Dungeons and Dragons out in the field hitting each other with rubber swords, you'll show up in lisping soy boy and drink some soy and go lay down and get arrested and go, oh, fascism, fascism, because you're blocking somebody else's free speech. Nobody's taking your speech. You can go have your communist rallies all day. I've been there when you're beating up the women, when they're going after the children. I've been there when the left all over this country tries to block my speech. I've never seen conservatives do it, or libertarians or patriots. You people are the threat. You're the authoritarians. You're the dirtbags with your failed socialist crap, with your sugar daddy, George Soros, a real Nazi collaborator. We show some footage. I'll be the women at Berkeley when they hit him and grab him. They drag the woman like into a mob of people and she just disappears. Poorly broke 7 bones and just beat her and 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 beat her. So she was just walking up to hear somebody speak. And they said, you heard her? You heard her, Milo? They said, yeah. They would just ride her into a big crowd. But see, those are the heroes. They're the heroes. They're the heroes. They beat up women and beat them over the head and punch them in the nose and everything else. They're the heroes fighting fascism. Bunch of meth head trash. We'll be back. Key intel straight ahead. Think about how smart Trump is. But think about how smart Matt Drudge is. I mean, Matt Drudge does all sorts of stuff I've learned behind the scenes, kind of matchmaking different things, different talk show hosts for different events, different explosive ideas for the good. And it was Matt Drudge's idea to have a military parade. Haven't had one in 18 years. It'll trigger the leftist. And I know for a fact that's been pushed in the White House directly from Drudge. And now Trump's announcing it, and the left flips out and says, you're an authoritarian like North Korea. But then they say, don't criticize North Korea. It's not bad. If North Korea has a corrupt military, that doesn't make us bad. And we're taking back control of our country. The military under leftist control, they've been preparing them for gun confiscation. We knew about all that because the military would always give me the documents. They'd give them to the NRA and stuff 10, 15, 20 years ago, and people couldn't believe it. And the NRA did not want to be that political. They would just sit on it. But more and more, we would get the documents out of the Marine Corps, out of the Army. How do you think we knew how to be at all those places? Some of them secret operations. And the media would spin it, Jones hates the military. No, I hate globalists getting control of it because that's how authoritarianism takes place. Tyranny will come to your door in a uniform. Free societies also have military and police. And they're always going to have problems because people have problems, and we're all failed, fallen people at one level. But if you let corruption take hold and you organize it over the people, it's called the T word, tyranny. And so I am so excited because just like, hey, you shouldn't take a knee during the national anthem. That's disrespectful. Oh, it's my free speech. And well, great, people don't have to go to your football game. And that was a fight they had with the president. They lost. It's a fight they had with America. They lost. And so Trump knows America's under attack. He knows the family's under attack. He knows globalism is demoralizing us. So he has to invoke our nationalism to show how they want to completely get rid of the borders. Like Trump said, sure, we'll legalize the dreamers. They can prove they're not criminals. And they went, no, no, fascist. We want totally open borders, no borders, and all peoples be able to come here. That was 2 weeks ago. And suddenly, folks, even in mainline polls go, well, Trump's being reasonable. You're not being reasonable. Also, when he came out and said that, he'd always said that during the campaign. The media had misrepresented it. So when he said that, he went, oh, look, you're lying. You said deport all Mexicans. They're all evil. Really, show me the videotape. Show me the audio. It doesn't exist. It's a lie. So see, it discredits that lie, and it discredits the other lie, that they're not being reasonable, that, of course, if you've been deported 5 times and been convicted of rape, you are going to be deported. We're not going to make you a dreamer. That's total common sense. But see, it's a cult. The globalists want to break our borders. That's why it's a crime in Germany or Sweden or other areas. I have stacks of news today where they rape people, they kill people, and the media is told, do not report it was a Muslim invader. Don't even report it was a migrant. First, call them refugees, then migrants, then don't call them Muslim, then don't say who they are at all. They fought for days to cover up that was an illegal alien deported 2 times before that killed that linebacker for the Colts over the weekend. We're fighting just for our ability to have speech and talk about what's going on. And so Trump invokes this to go, we're going to have a military parade to honor our veterans and the fallen and their families. Boy, you can't have that. We can have the illegal aliens march. We can have all the liberal marches. Nobody tries to stop those. But anybody else tries to march, here comes the left to beat you up. And the cops stand by, and if you raise a hand to fight back, you're arrested in blue cities as fast as you can snap your fingers. And the cops say, we're sorry, we've been ordered to stand down on video. That's how these cowards operate, 100 to 1 with police protection in blue cities. Can you imagine all of America being under this, where they can beat up and attack anybody they want? We've got leftist brutality beyond anything you see with bad apple cops. I've been punched and hit and spit on and attacked with coffee, and I'm a pretty big guy. I almost tell Millie and people, the reporters don't go out. They go, no, we're going out. Then they make TV shows where it's InfoWars is the name of the show. A reporter like Millie gets drug off and raped, and then the jury lets him go, said she deserves to be raped. That's Law and Order last week. Their message is, we're going to hurt you, we're going to attack you, and we're going to let you go. These juries in these swamp cities like D.C. and L.A. and San Francisco, we're going to let illegal aliens shoot women in the back, say they did it, and get away with it. We're going to have simulated rapes of women and hope that actually starts. She deserved to be gang raped by a line of men. This InfoWars reporter. On the show, the name of the show is InfoWars. It's set in a fictional city like what happened in Charlottesville. It's a Millie Weaver reporter saying the stuff InfoWars says, word for word. Even makes sense what she's saying. And she gets raped and thrown in a trash can, thrown in a dumpster with blood all over her. And the jury said, and so it's about wimps being able to come out and attack and have their day in Seattle, in San Francisco, in Austin, and no, it's their day of cowardice, their day to bully, their day to attack, their day to be vicious, their day to hurt speech, their time to hurt, their time to simulate war. Coming up, I'm going to play prayer breakfast clips and a bunch of other amazing clips that I haven't even gotten to. They're over the top. Chris Cuomo and Jim Jordan battle over Democrat memo. We've got just so much, but just the left trying to kill our speech and attacking us everywhere, and then saying they're like victims at Tiananmen Square when they're going to go try to block a veterans parade when they're the ones blocking free speech again. It's just too rich. It's a perfect inversion of reality. Upside down land. I've been calling it upside down land for 20 years. And they got these shows, you know, like the one on Netflix where it's upside down. People go, is that from Stranger Things? No, that's just everybody talks about upside down land. That's what the globalists are. It's an inverted dimension. That's what Satanism is. That's what a pentagram is. The pentagram is an upside down pentacle. A pentacle symbolizes humans. A head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. It's a powerful, powerful symbol. Inverting it is about it upside down and them siphoning the energy off of the inversion, because it creates major dark energy, major destruction, the universe is not in order. So these weak people go in and go, let me flip this upside down, because they're so weak, even though they only get a tiny bit of the evil power that's created by it, they still kind of go, warming their hands to the fire of evil. Now, briefly, ladies and gentlemen, we have launched a new site, fortifiedsupply.com, and it's InfoWars site. They censored us off Google ads and everything, so I thought, you know, let's create a site that we say is a sponsor, but it's really us. And I thought, you know, I'm not going to do that, even though it's true that it'd be a sponsor if it's our sub company that helps fund the operation. It's InfoWars. Now, if they want to try to censor that when I try to run ads with it again, that's fine. It's a super fancy, high-tech shopping cart. And it's got the very best survival goods, the very best tactical stuff, the very best privacy and security, stockpile, air and water filters, bug out bags, and we're going to add always the best-selling supplements there. Every week we're going to have top sales there. Our super high-quality True Whey, absolutely concentrated, high quality, no preservatives, is 50% off at InfoWarsStore.com only every once in a while. Right now it is at FortifiedSupply.com. Bodies, the water filtration systems from ProPure, AlexaPure, they're all there on our new shopping cart. Again, because they're always trying to shut us down, so we're setting up more systems. InfoWarsStore.com is excellent, high-tech, and great, but there's different styles of these things. So InfoWarsStore.com is one style with one array of Patriot points and free shipping on order $50 or more and 10% off when you sign up for auto ships. Got a lot of little cool, high-end functions that work great, highest level security. Fortified Supply's got a lot of the other cool ways to shop and other little free goodies and things. And so whether it's Citizen Armor or Fortified Supply, Harvest Right, ProPure, Tennessee Arms, Cato shortwave radios, AlexaPure, Combat One, Defender, and hundreds of other new items. We're going to have a lot of new gear next week being announced on the site. FortifiedSupply.com. And it really is a first-rate site. Looks great, navigates great, works great, and it's going to just be a whole new area. They'll have some crossover, about 10%. It'll have a lot of items that aren't at InfoWarsStore.com there. So adventure is calling. Get the gear that helps you survive. And we've been added to the Google lawsuit over them blocking free speech and blocking ours, and we're behind the scenes involved in a lot of stuff. I told you lawsuits were coming. And but we are obviously going to now take this site and have it refused if they do, and I've got to sue. We've already had Google ban us from their own shopping cart, saying that I criticized Obama and that's racist. So they banned us from having a Google shopping cart 5 years ago. So we've already got a lot of lawsuits, and we have to stand up for everybody's free speech. But the biggest way you do is buying great products and funding the operation at FortifiedSupply.com. Well, there's a lot to talk about. There's the president's prayer breakfast where they sent the lady running against Vladimir Putin to it with some other Russians. And the media said, look, Trump's got a bunch of Russians at his event. He's a Russian. Man, that is just incredible how they've successfully, though, gotten where Trump won't meet with Putin, even though he should have already met with him 6-8 months ago. He's met with all the other major G8 leaders. It's crazy. They have successfully launched a McCarthyism 50 times bigger and 100% illegitimate. McCarthy, it turned out from the Russian files that were declassified, was dead on. But as soon as he said, oh, there's rich elites in the U.S., in the State Department, helping they were helping the leftists that had colonized Russia. They were helping the leftists that our globalist elites had funded in 1917. That's in the Russian textbooks now. That's in major U.S. textbooks as well, like Tragedy and Hope. But Tragedy and Hope is only for State Department officials to read. Only 1,000 copies were printed because they were confused. They're like, we fight communism, but we secretly fund it? Yes, it's full spectrum dominance. Let us explain that to you. Well, Trump's about stopping that. And obviously, he can't put the brakes to it immediately. Everything's too entrenched. But knowing how the scam works, knowing how the beyond Machiavellian system of funding radical Islam to take over other Islamic areas, destabilize those areas, then use that wave to take the liberties in Europe, and use that as a pretext to then invade the Middle East. It's full spectrum dominance. It's, hey, I don't have any morals. I'm going to be super corrupt and super evil, and I'm going to wage war against everybody but myself and consolidate total control. And you look at the globalists that run this thing, they have horribly unhappy children. They're completely screwed up. But their evil is so massive and so big and so strong and so intense that the average person's blind to it. Just like we only see in a limited spectrum of light on the light spectrum. Well, if you can't see something with your eyes right off spectrum, you can't pick up ultraviolet radiation. You can't pick up hundreds and hundreds of different types of things in the light spectrum and things that are outside the light spectrum. It doesn't exist for you. Just like radio waves, just like cell towers. It's all here. It's all here with us right now. But out of sight, out of mind. And so they hope that people aren't picking up all this. And they think you're too stupid to ever be aware of it. Now, I went into a whole rant earlier about, if you just joined us, about the left attacking free speech all over the country like they're the communist Chinese coming into Tiananmen Square to crush the students who wanted free speech. It's the left crushing free speech all over campuses, beating people up, saying no white day or no whites allowed, you know, at the Missouri University or at Evergreen up in Washington. I mean, this is really going on. This isn't pockets. And now it's up to 50 people that this academic's got ready to lay down in front of the tanks. Like the tanks are coming at the military parade Trump's going to have to attack them. But Rand Paul has a really good point, and he's right. Trump needs to bring the troops home from places like Afghanistan. They are downsizing the troops in Iraq. We need to pull out of a bunch of these foreign military bases, and we need to cut those areas that are offensive and that are part of this big globalist empire that we've been paying for and getting none of the dividends from. And we need to bring a lot of the troops home and then have a parade for, say, 100,000 troops being brought home from around the world. That's only less than a third. And then celebrate those that are still in combat and all the rest of it. I mean, I agree. Usually the military parades are, you know, when World War II's over or when we pull out of Iraq in 1991. It's a military parade because it's over. Well, I get what Trump's doing to have one because we haven't had one in 18 years to thank our military for what they've done. But there needs to be at least the symbolism and more than tokenism of a substantive number of troops pulled out of these far-flung places where we've got military bases. So we all know really why. So CIA hit teams can infiltrate locally and kill people. Well, we're going to continue to follow the stock market and what's happening to it today while we are live here on air. That is going to be unfolding. It's been as far down as 450 points. My computer's perpetually frozen. Will you guys put that back on screen for me, the Dow Jones Industrial Averages from CNBC, please? Thank you. So you can see right now how far down it is to 24,272 points. So that is 650 on the day, 620. It's gyrating back and forth there as we speak. So we'll be going over all of that today as we watch this unfold. It would have to go down 7,800 plus points to erase all of the Trump gains we've seen in the last 14, 15 months since he was president-elect and then president. But that said, it is still built on a house of cards because of the very globalist policies we've seen. But the real new jobs numbers, the record new startups, the thousands of companies coming back, including Apple, that is going to mean massive new employment for Americans. But we've been in a race. Trump expanding the bubble because you can't just stabilize it. You have to expand it, hope some money gets back to the people. Before, basically, none of it was getting back to the people. And then hope that we innovate our way out of this like we've done before. And Trump's talked about trying to get a lot of the secret technologies and things that are seen as disruptive technologies back out to the public. So I want to, speaking of innovation, go to a very important video here that was put together by Rob Dew and myself. Elon Musk, Falcon Heavy launch, and Spaceman's secrets decoded. Or really, where did Elon Musk get the idea of firing a sports coupe out into space with an astronaut at the wheel? And that video, it's a powerful little piece, is up on Infowars.com. Elon Musk, Falcon Heavy launch, and Spaceman, secrets decoded. What's next for humanity? And again, the globalists have decided to not have a future for, of, and by humans. And so just the idea of humans going back into space or putting an artifact into space signifies that we believe the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, our technology will advance so much that we're going to catch up with probes launched in the 1960s and 70s, like Voyager and others. And then we'll catch up to this car, probably when Elon Musk is still alive. I'd guess by his 80s. And that it'll be in a museum, maybe on Mars, or maybe in New York City, or maybe in Dubai, or maybe in Peking, or maybe in Tokyo, or maybe in who knows where, Mexico City. But I got a sneaking suspicion that my children one day will be in a museum looking at that car that was launched into deep space a few days ago. And of course, no one noticed where this was really from. It's from heavy metal. And we show side by side how the idea of something could be envisioned in a 1980s cartoon, an independent film, it's a great, great film, archetypal, is now manifest in reality. This is a ritual, not an occult ritual, but a true ritual of human vision. Let's go to the report.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
The decision was made by DARPA about 30 years ago to build a future without humans, that silicon life forms were better and that the so-called elite would merge with them. Bill Joy was the first to warn about this in 1999 after he had a meeting with several hundred top tech billionaires where they had a consensus to bring in world government, dumb down the population, and then exterminate us. Well, along comes Elon Musk. And of course, he's been meeting with Trump and others, and he says, we're gonna make space travel about humans again. And so he launches this huge SpaceX launch with this heavy booster rocket with this innovative Tesla car that's a roadster with an image of a human or a spaceman, an astronaut, a cosmonaut, one who walks amongst the stars. This idea that humans are only empowered when they realize their potential to explore and to innovate and to build, not to be told that we're yesterday's news and the elites are just telling us to crawl into a hole and die and that there'll be no real human evolution. Now, there are different types of evolution. There's the eugenics-based, social Darwinistic evolution that says they can commit any crime they want and prey on you and your family. But then there is real evolution, which is human beings taking control of their own development. In fact, of all the species on this planet, we are the one species that has taken control of our evolution through the greater good, through our conquest, through our ideas, through our art, through the common knowledge of the people-based sixth sense internet. But the globalists come in with Hollywood and this whole New World Order system, and they suppress that, and they turn us inward. And they give us lots of little diversionary distractions like modern gladiatorial games and sports and Hollywood stars, so that instead of looking at the stars and wanting to have our progeny travel to the stars, instead of wanting to unlock the mysteries of the atom and the universe and really fulfill our destiny to go to the next level, we look at red carpets and Hollywood tarts and directors and all these people as if they're God and as if they are the stars. But Trump and InfoWars and you and all of us together with Elon Musk are tearing aside that and making NASA and private industry and everything about humans, with a guy in a really kick-ass motorcycle / race car driver outfit right out of the 1980s heavy metal, because you know there's a hat tip to that, even though I haven't seen it, rocketing out on the big blue-black highway into the universe, into life extension, into endless choices, into incredible discovery, building a future for humans, building a future by humans, building a future where we continue on and exist and don't just make ourselves failures and losers. The stars aren't Hollywood. The stars are in deep space in the sky, and we're all part of it, and we're all stars. We all orbit this beautiful star, and we're going to experience through our progeny the mysteries of the universe that God has laid out for us. You're a god compared to the best AI they've got. And these failed evil people believe that if they can suppress you and dominate you, that somehow they can use us as the master engineers to build a system to make them a god, like Ray Kurzweil says. I don't believe in God yet. Fool, you were made by God. You're an extension of God. But because you're cut off from God, you can't experience that and know that you've already arrived. But Elon Musk and this whole launch was a ritual, not satanic, not pagan, not even Christian, but just human. Whatever we envision in a cartoon from the 80s is now manifest on the head of a big boost rocket on its way. The universe is waiting for you. You simply have to take it in your hands and decide to have a pro-human, pro-innovation world that's built for humans, by humans, for humans. InfoWars, because there's a war on for your mind. We have to realize the true awesomeness of the middle of the universe that we're actually in. Rob Dew and I threw that together yesterday. That said, though, I got to add the caveat about Elon Musk when we come back. Just like I have a caveat about Trump's military parade. Then we're going to get into his prayer breakfast and so much more. I'm Alex Jones with this amazing crew and all our great affiliates. We love you all. We'll be right back. Boy, I tell you, this Depeche Mode luscious song totally exposes, in the context of its words, what's happened to the Democrats with the fact that at first they didn't hide the fact that they were illegally spying on the president and his entire operation when he was a candidate. They said, oh, we've been spying on you. We know you're a Russian agent. And they went, oh, we never spied on you once he was president-elect. And then once he was president, he found out everything. In fact, he found out on November 17th, before he was even sworn in, just a week and a half after he was elected, from Admiral Rogers at the NSA. So Trump's known the whole time. He doesn't leak stuff to the press like the globalists do. And like Adam Schiff reportedly has been caught doing over 100 times. Seriously illegal stuff. So he just sits there and lets them dig their hole deeper. And that's what they've done. And I've had a lot of people asking me, Alex, why aren't you covering the bombshells, as Trump called it in a video yesterday, of these new text messages and new emails that Congress is releasing almost on a daily basis? Because we already were told by Congress what was in there. We already know what they did. We already know they lied. We already have enough evidence to put them in jail 50 times over. The perjury to Congress, the perjury to get the warrants, the insurance policy, the secret society, the money paid by Orr to his wife, $2 million. She was hired just to write the dossier at Fusion GPS. And then she gets a large portion of $2 million from her husband that pulls the trigger. I said that back in December. We played the video just yesterday, and now it's all over the news. Oh, my gosh, the big crime is Orr giving his wife millions of dollars. Yeah, I don't need to see it break to know what I'm looking at. See, and I'm not bragging about this. It's just, it's crazy how they fear InfoWars because they know a lot of times I point something out and then somebody else picks it up and something that no one was looking at now gets looked at. That's what they really fear, is that I'm an independent person who studied the law a little bit, and I'm not a rocket scientist, but I know that if you give $500,000 to an FBI agent's wife, and that FBI agent is the main one investigating Hillary, and then covers up the investigation and tells her she's not an investigation and gives her a letter and then has a fake investigation, and then he's the same one covering up all this other stuff, and then he's the one running for McCabe and Comey, he's the number 3 in charge, the entire fake Russiagate deal, and then his wife gets $500,000 cash, and they won't even say where it went. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I remember 3 months ago pointing out, one of the crew goes, hey, this guy's wife ran for, was it governorship, and got a $500,000 donation from Hillary. Whew. And so, of course, they're investigating the Clinton Foundation. And, of course, it's coming out they did all this criminal stuff in paper play. It was already in the WikiLeaks. I mean, folks, they're in WikiLeaks saying, we're going to have the Aleister Crowley ritual tonight, and we've got blood, semen, and breast milk, sir. And then Podesta asks how fresh and delicious it is. I mean, and what did they do? They were in deep trouble. So they just said, oh, it's all a pizza place over here. CNN, everybody made everybody look at the pizza place that they did go to make it all about that instead of New York and at the cabin, there will be the children in the hot tub for your entertainment. They're all experienced and will service you well, but they're still children. So they might give you a problem. Ugh. And you've got Quentin Tarantino on Howard Stern saying the demon, Roman Polanski, convicted and ran off for child rape here, got arrested in Europe for it, in jail now. You got Polanski, he says, oh, that's no big deal, that's consensual. Now, see, the age of consent is 17 to 18 because you can't join the military, you can't drink alcohol because you're a minor. Your parents have your custody. And, oh, by the way, she wasn't consenting. She was drugged for the raping. But see, that's what even Howard Stern went, man, that's disgusting. I got daughters. That's pedophilia that Roman Polanski engaged in. But that's what we're dealing with here, is people that are in their own world and think we just exist for their pleasure and their enjoyment. So FBI informant testifies, Moscow routed millions to Clinton Foundation in Russia uranium dominance strategy. Well, we know that, and that's what's come out, and it was $30-something million, just Hillary, the Podestas. It's insane. It's next level. So we'll get into all that, too, coming up. It's a big deal, but this is the kind of stuff I'm really concerned about. Special report, U.S. body brokers supply world with torsos, limbs, and heads. The jury found that Rathburn defrauded customers shipping parts infected with HIV and hepatitis. Unbelievable. We're going to get to all of it. But briefly, because I said I'd do it. Tesla is a patriot-type company. I like Elon Musk, but I don't like how they're going to pioneer the self-driving cars and just give in to all that when you say you're pro-human. And I understand, well, that's innovation as long as, we know what's going on. And it's the same thing with the Trump situation. I'm all for a military parade, but he really needs to bring a bunch of troops home from these useless bases around the world that are bankrupting our country and that have been serving the globalists. We need to bring a lot of troops home and cut the military budget for stuff that is purely empire building. And Rand Paul has come out and said that as well. Bring U.S. troops home from Afghanistan, then throw the parade. But I understand what Trump's doing, triggering the leftist and making them come out and say they're going to attack the parade to show people the internal enemy and who they really are. So I'm just saying he should bring some troops home from Iraq. In fact, they're coming home from Iraq now. It's been announced almost all of them. So I guess that's probably what Trump's got in mind. We always think, hey, Trump ought to do this, and he's 5 steps ahead, and it's already been planned. In fact, I bet that's what happens. But a great idea Matt Drudge had a year ago, now manifesting. Before I go any further, I just want to introduce you to our newest product from InfoWars Life. It's Icarin Liver and Kidney Cleanse. It's got the strongest concentrations in it of milk thistle extract and N-acetylcysteine, organic amla fruit, and a bunch of other concentrates, organic artichoke leaf, many more, organic licorice root, bupalorium root, and so much more. And this is documented and known to help get toxins out of your body that the liver and the kidneys can't handle themselves in this toxic environment, and you owe it to yourself. It's such an amazing formula, and you can do it a couple times a year. There's more than enough in the bottle to do it, several cleanses for yourself, your wife, your husband, your children. And again, it's available at InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. Oh, and I almost forgot, introductory offer, it's 50% off. 50% off out of the gates from retail at $19.95. Leading competitors that aren't even as strong are $50 when they're discounted. This is incredible. Try our new turmeric formula as well, Bodies. Still 50% off, but that special is about to end at InfoWarsLife.com.
Bitcoin today, not crisis economics, crisis Bitcoin. How would you open the book? Well, I said it's the mother of all bubbles, and it's also the biggest bubble in human history. If you compare it to, say, the Mississippi bubble, or the tech bubble, or tulip mania, or South Sea
You can
bubble.
equate Bitcoin to tulips.
Much worse. If you look at the peak in Bitcoin was an order of magnitude higher than tulip mania, and now has crashed by about 60% compared to the peak of mid-December, has crashed 30% the last week and 10% today. And it's all the way down to zero. The fundamental value of Bitcoin is zero.
I was talking with our Edward Robinson and our team at Crypto, folks, out on Twitter. How did they get this handle? At Crypto, out on Twitter, is a Bloomberg summation of this culture and event. The money question today, Nouriel, is the crypto people say they can separate the crypto industry, blockchain, all the rest of it, everything we saw at Davos, from the value of Bitcoin. Can you separate crypto from the price decay of Bitcoin?
No. First of all, there are already something like 1,300 plus cryptocurrencies or ICOs. Most of them are even worse and don't have any intrinsic value, like Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is a bubble, they're a bubble to the power of 2 or 3. And there is all this hype about blockchain saying, okay, maybe Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are a bubble or a fad, but blockchain is really a revolutionary industry. It's been around for 10 years. The only application is Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies that are a scam. And in the early days of the internet, people say, well, in the early days, you had HTML, you have web, you have email, you had lots of other things. You had millions of applications and hundreds of millions using them. After 10 years, what they can offer in the blockchain space, nothing. Just a bunch of cryptocurrencies that are a scam.
Now, I stayed out of Bitcoin because I don't get involved in bubbles because I don't want to hurt my listeners. But at the same time, the fiat currencies these governments have are even more corrupt according to Robini's own standard. I've had Robini on before. And so you see this full assault now. Here's the headlines. Get ready for most cryptocurrencies to hit zero, Goldman says. Wow. Minneapolis Fed president says Bitcoin is a toy for collectors. Bitcoin price continues to recover after pushing January and fears of crash. So it seemed like it was the biggest thing in the world just a few months ago. ECB officials backs Bitcoin clampdown. Well, we saw the clampdown start a few weeks ago. That's now caused it to start going down. Joining us is Roger Ver of Bitcoin.com. After founding several successful companies in Silicon Valley, Roger began his Bitcoin journey in 2011. Years before traditional venture capital firms got involved, he became the first person in the world to start investing in Bitcoin-related startups, nearly single-handedly funding the entire first generation of Bitcoin businesses. He currently invests include Bitcoin.com, Blockchain.com, BitPay.com, Kraken.com, and many, many, many others. In his free time, he enjoys competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments, Bitcoin.com. So he's the expert to get on about this and try to explain it to me. Maybe if he's got more time, we'll open the phones up for a couple segments and take calls. Then I will, I promise, get to the big news. I promise I keep saying I'm going to get into about what's behind the whole trans thing, because they've now admitted what I've said is behind it. But it's very important that this emergency transmission go out, because they're going to use this to end up censoring all speech, starting with one word. So I'm going to explain that next hour. But Roger Ver, thanks for coming on with us today.
Thank you, Alex.
So where should we start? You just saw that criticism, those articles I read. How do you, as kind of the Bitcoin guru, respond?
Well, I've been in since it was $1 each. And I remember hearing similar arguments about it when Bitcoin hit $1 per Bitcoin for the first time. People said, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. Bitcoin can never be worth a whole dollar each. They said all the exact same arguments that we're hearing today when Bitcoin is around $10,000 each.
Well, give people then the history of Bitcoin, just in a snapshot, if you could.
Sure. So when I first heard about Bitcoin, I got incredibly excited about it because I knew that it was the first time history of humankind that thanks to this technology now anyone can send and receive any amount of money with anyone anywhere in the world instantly, basically for free, and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop it. And for me, that's incredibly exciting. I think people should have complete control over their own money, and they shouldn't be bossed around or told what they can and can't do with their own money. And Bitcoin was this tool of freedom for a single person. And that's why I got involved, and that's why I'm still here today, because I see it as a tool to empower the individual and strip power away from the governments and corporations and banks around the world.
How many cryptocurrencies are there now that we know of?
There's thousands, but there's only a few that are actually having a utility at this point. So the ones that people are actually using on a wide scale would be Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and maybe a couple of others out there. Those are the ones that have the most volume and the most traction, the most users around the world. And a lot of people get confused, like, why would any of these virtual currencies have any value at all? But the answer is simple. If is useful, it will have a value. And so Bitcoin and Ethereum and a bunch of these other ones, they're incredibly useful. People are using them for payments all over the world, and the supply is limited. So of course they're going to ask more to use.
Sure.
Their value goes up over time, not down, because the supply is limited.
We're going to go to break, try to fix your Skype a little bit. Most of it's coming across, but this is really important. Tally sticks, seashells, then copper coins, silver coins, gold coins. It's whatever we accept has value. And so the magicians behind the Federal Reserve and other central banks, they want to sit there and say this is all a fraud, but you guys have actually created and encoded new digital systems that has value in that, and that it does contain and then transfer forward information that people then want to consider as a currency. I think it's completely legitimate. It's just, in my layperson's view, and why I haven't ever gotten into any of it, is it's a minefield of wild, wild west during this period. Fortunes will be made, they will be lost. And so it's not been my core mission to be involved in this, or I'd be in the stock market. God, amount of money I could have made. The few people I gave advice to are just blown away. But knowing what I know politically, but I just never stuck my toe in it because I fear regulators would come lock my butt up. We'll be back. Stay with us. All right, Roger Ver, the Bitcoin king, is getting his Skype fixed or getting on the phone. We're going to talk to him in a minute. Really important. And I know the last few days I said I would get to what the whole trans movement's about. And why if you say tranny, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, says they will ban you. I mean, we've had executives from Facebook and Twitter call here, and it's official executives, and say, we don't want to ban you, but you can't use that word above all other words. And I'm going to explain it, what's behind it. It's not the people, that men that want to be women or women that want to be men. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with something bigger. The most protected class are going to be augmented humans, cyborgs, you name it. And you're going to have humanoids, which, again, isn't a man and a woman with the chromosomes splicing together. They're already announcing the first baby with 3 parents to be born this year. They've been doing it for decades, but it's not a human. It's something different when you got 3 parents. And you say, oh, we just changed some of these genes over here. It changes the whole deal. Especially you start mixing 2 women. That's a whole nother subject, because women have double the genetic code and then some. And then 1 extra chromosome, but also the mitochondrial DNA that the men don't even have. And so they're creating new life forms. And they're just creating a stampede where you don't criticize that. And I made the joke a few weeks ago, you know, there's hundreds of new sexual preferences, and Facebook recognizes 50. So I said, will I get in trouble if I don't know the LGBTQTZ, L394QQZ45, ABCDQFP? It actually came out in the news this week that people are saying it's this big, long thing, and if you don't know that, you're hateful. And you've got to add each new group to it. And I'm just like, they got groups of people that want to have sex with cars. I'm going to have to know what that group's called. In fact, you looked up the name the other day, Zach. And then the headlines were Alex Jones says gay men want to break in your garage and have sex with your car. Nothing about gay men, nothing about sex with, it was all about, as they add all these new things, then make us accept it. Like, this woman wants to be blind. We pour Drano in her eye and the taxpayer pays for her to live as a blind woman. That's mental illness. Are we going to put that on there too? Well, it's happened. And it'll be like the national religion to go L3Q943 ABCQ PBLVQ543Z92 ... 34Q59740. I mean, it's just total mental illness. But it's how you destroy a civilization. I'm telling you, it's like the South Park episode. You go have them, you know, put a fake blowhole on the top of your head and a fin on the back of you. You're not a dolphin. You're not a penguin. And there's males and there's females. And then there's genetic mutations of hermaphrodites. And we're not attacking hermaphrodites. The point is that it's happening to the animals too. So we're going to talk about the plan to end humanity. There it is, LGBT. They found it. LGBT. Activists push for LGBTQQICAPF2K. I told you it'd be something like that. You can't make this up. And that's in major Canadian newspapers, you name it, with the president there saying people kind. I mean, this is an assault on biology, and we have the documents. Going back to our guest, I'm glad we were able to get the Bitcoin King, Roger Ver, Bitcoin.com. Roger, you're the expert. Instead of just answering my layman, troglodyte, caveman questions, what is this revolution? If a month ago they said it was the biggest thing in the world, bigger than Goldman Sachs, where is it now after the attempts to plunge it? Because clearly the regulators are coming out saying they're going to try to kill it. I think that's what's caused the latest drop, and you would see that as an opportunity to buy more?
Yeah, there's been all sorts of crazy stuff going on all over the world, but the biggest attack on Bitcoin seems to have been coming from apparently from within, but I think it's actually a bunch of people on the outside. So believe it or not, if you read the original Bitcoin white paper written by Satoshi Nakamoto, it says Bitcoin, an electronic peer-to-peer digital cash system. Pretty clearly it was meant to be used as cash, but you have a bunch of people now running around claiming that Bitcoin shouldn't be used as cash. It should just be a store of value, but that's a bunch of nonsense. So
well, I mean, listen, won't that make it take on and work if it can be converted to cash or be seen as cash?
Yeah, that's the entire point. So I've been involved in Bitcoin for over 7 years now. My entire goal from day one was to get as many people using it as cash around the world as quickly as possible. And the more people that are using it as money, the more difficult it'll be for governments to demonize or control or manipulate it or do bad things to it. And unfortunately, a group of people from within are openly hostile to the idea of using Bitcoin as cash. But luckily, Bitcoin is now split into two versions of Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Core is slow, expensive to use, and unreliable. Bitcoin Cash is super fast, super cheap to use, and super reliable. So it's not a tough decision as to which one people are going to start using. And that's why I've been I've sold the vast majority of my Bitcoin Core coins for more Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin.com is busy promoting Bitcoin Cash. Myself and everybody around me are busy promoting Bitcoin Cash because it works exactly how Bitcoin did from day one. And at this point, Bitcoin Cash effectively is Bitcoin.
Is that proprietary or just, I mean, with your holdings in Bitcoin, with your company, how big's the market right now?
The total market cap of Bitcoin, I think it's Bitcoin Cash is the third biggest cryptocurrency by market cap at the moment, third or fourth. It fluctuates from day to day.
What's that in dollars?
There, I can look it up for you real quick. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's in the billions of dollars. So.
I was always worried it was insiders putting this out as a way to kind of let it get out there, go through the kinks, Wild West, and they come in with regulators, take over the ones they wanted. But you being so deep in it, is there any provenance to that?
I think that's exactly what happened to Bitcoin Core at this point. The entire promise of Bitcoin from day one was to allow anyone anywhere in the world to transact financially with anyone else without having to get permission from anybody else. And there's your market caps for you where you can see everything. But Bitcoin Cash still has that promise of allowing anybody anywhere in the world to be able to transact with anyone basically for free, and nobody can stop it. Nobody can block your transaction. Nobody can freeze your account. Nobody can control it in any way. Today, Bitcoin transactions very recently were as much as $50 were the average fees for sending a single transaction on the Bitcoin Core network there. The average transaction fee on Bitcoin Cash is less than a penny each. And we can see today it's up 25% today, where everything else is down by a substantial amount.
So what you're saying is, what's driving it down? The calls for regulation or internal subgroups trying to basically milk the system by bringing it into an economic system that it wasn't designed for?
So if you wanted to destroy Bitcoin from the inside out, you would do the exact things that these Bitcoin Core people have done. They managed to get control of the major discussion platforms for Bitcoin, engage in massive censorship, delete anybody's post who's has a different opinion than their point of view, engaging in massive trolling on the internet, just personal attacks and non-arguments, just lots of name calling. They've driven away some of the most passionate people from the ecosystem. I was the first person in the entire world to translate the Bitcoin white paper into Japanese. Jihan Wu, the CEO of Bitmain, was the first person in the world to translate
this is
the white paper
riveting
into
because I'm not even an expert on this, but I'm an expert on systems, and that's what happened with us, nationalist movements, you name it. And it's come out, too. They have these huge war rooms. I don't know about the company you're talking about, but sometimes thousands of people in office buildings with big boards up there commanding the attacks, running them, the bots. Then they claim the Russians are doing it. The Russians are in the Stone Age when it comes to stuff like this. And it's all big mega banks, big globalists. And what you're saying is that it appears that that's going on?
That exact thing has been happening in Bitcoin, and they very clearly seem to have organized talking points where the trolls on Twitter and social media, from one day to the next, they switch from one talking point that they call Bitcoin Cash. Bcash is an attack. They try and say that I'm mentally ill. They have all sorts of these crazy attacks, and they all come in waves where they're all on point with each other. And it's just absolutely stunning to see that this has happened to the Bitcoin ecosystem. And we saw Bitcoin's market share go from 90+% now down to 30%. And there's all these different cryptocurrencies now that are jockeying for position, which is if you were a globalist and wanted to prevent people from being able to have control over their own money and want the governments to control everything, this is exactly how you would do it. And it's incredibly frustrating.
We're going to come back. We're going to come right back with Roger Ver, Mr. Bitcoin, Mr. Cryptocurrency, and we'll take some of your phone calls, 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539, specifically for him on the subject for 2 segments. So specifically on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, your questions, talking to the Bitcoin guru. Again, that's 877-789-ALEX. We'll be right back on the other side just briefly. We have amazing supplements. We have the amazing products that are about to go off sale because we're getting close to selling out. We've got the Bodies, amazing ultimate turmeric formula that we've got out now. It's so good in so many ways, anti-inflammatory, you name it, folks. Look into it. Icarin, our latest product, 30-day liver and kidney cleanse. It's 50% off, but it's not selling out right now because it just came out yesterday. We've got so many other great products like the Real Red Pill that is a vitamin, but mainly a mineral compound structure then that has a precursor hormone to it that's seen as totally legal and safe that then powers your entire endocrine system. That's at InfoWarsLive.com. The Real Red Pill, all of it available at InfoWarsLive.com or 888-253-3139. And again, your purchase of the products makes this entire transmission possible. But check out Icarin today. Coming up, the war on Western civilization goes into high gear. Sweden appoints Pakistani to lead National Heritage Board, whose job is to teach people that Swedes aren't Sweden. Again, it's one thing to be open and bring in groups to be more diverse in culture, and that's, but to bring people in to say we need to get rid of this Western culture, that was the plan put out by the former head of the EU, who then became the head of the whole refugee program, who died 2 weeks ago, Peter Sutherland. That story is on Infowars.com. Austria left bars owners banning asylum seekers after crime explosion. That's right, you got to let everybody in. You got to give them your housing. Washington Post upset that Trump immigration plan will keep whites a majority for a few more years. They say it's important to get rid of whites being the majority because whites are bad. And I was watching a clip on my internet this morning of on Vice. They actually have programs where they talk about how whites are inherently evil and shouldn't be able to travel. I mean, this is like the most and it's all being directed by white leftists who want to create infighting. But I digress. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. Roger Ver of Bitcoin.com joins us, and he's getting into the whole war inside Bitcoin. He says the plunge in Bitcoin, one of many, but over time it just keeps going up. Why don't we show like a 7-year graph or 8-year graph on Bitcoin, if those exist? I know they're out there. It says there's an internal war going on. I don't know all the details. I just know he's the Bitcoin guru. So we'll go to break in a few minutes for 1 minute and then come back, go to your calls. Garrett, Drew, Stefan, Daryl, Patrick. If what you're saying is accurate, and people say you're a credible guy, you have a lot of fans, then what is the prognosis in this globalist-directed civil war inside crypto?
The prognosis here is that people are going to have to pick the cryptocurrencies that are the most useful for them in their daily lives and start using them. And that's what we're seeing happen right now with Bitcoin Cash. And literally, you can't make this stuff up. The president of the Bilderberg Group is the lead investor in this company called Blockstream that basically did exactly what their name implies. They got involved and they blocked the stream of transactions on the Bitcoin network and did everything they possibly could to make Bitcoin less useful as money. These companies these people have openly attacked every company that wants to use Bitcoin as money. They attack anybody who promotes using Bitcoin as money. It's absolutely maddening to see these people getting involved. And they raised $150 million from traditional finance companies. And most of it came from AXA and the head of the Bilderberg Group there. That's exactly who this money came from, and it's just maddening to anybody who thinks that Bitcoin should be usable as money. Well,
I've noticed that globalists love to have a double meaning, like, we will stream you the block. We're the block stream. But really, we're blocking the stream. I've noticed they're obsessed with double meanings like that.
And that seems to be exactly what we've had happen here with Bitcoin. They are openly hostile to people using it as money. You actually, if you just simply quote the title of the original Bitcoin white paper, they get angry and they say all sorts of crazy things like, no, Bitcoin was never meant to be used as money. Bitcoin can never scale on chain so people can use it. That's a pack of lies. Bitcoin was ready for the entire world to be able to use it. It could scale on-chain to support that. Right there today, no problem at all. And yet these people are arguing against people having control over their own money. There's the title, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And they mock Bitcoin Cash. They mock the idea of using Bitcoin as cash, but it's right there.
Well, it's pretty obvious that it was meant to challenge the central banks, as the inventor said. So the Jedi mind trick of you're not wearing a blue shirt, Roger. Of course, you are wearing a blue shirt. I'm not wearing a mallard green shirt. Well, actually, I am. It's because, I mean, just as a layperson, on its face, that's how Bitcoin takes over, or a cryptocurrency. Whoever gets in first and becomes ubiquitously traded, then it's game over. That's been the goal from the beginning.
That has been the goal from the beginning, but these disruptors have come in and disrupted the entire thing, and now people are figuring out, well, which currency should I use, and what's happening with this? Bitcoin used to be fast, cheap, and reliable, but now Bitcoin Core is super expensive, slow, and unreliable. And now we have this Bitcoin.
Are you saying I should come in after the break playing the Beastie Boys Sabotage?
Hey, you absolutely should, Alex.
All right. Again, I don't know anything about any of this stuff. I'm just trying to work my way through it here. But it makes a lot of sense what this guy's saying. Newswars.com, Infowars.com. We'll be back on the other side. Stay with us. It's Sabotage. I'm hosting the 4th hour today. This John Rappaport is under the weather. The great John Rappaport. And then we got the whole 3-hour kickoff with the War Room with Owen Schroyer and Roger Stone, now returned from his big victory lap in the UK. I've said this for 2-3 days. I got behind with big breaking news. We're going to watch the stock market. In fact, where is it? It was like 650 points down at the low. Let's keep monitoring that. The Dow Jones, that's going on. But we know that throughout history, big financial interests come in and bring down things they want to take control of. So how far down is the Dow right now? It is down 489 points. Again, it would have to be down. That's just on today's trading. It's down less than 2,000 points in the last week since this started. And it would have to be down close to 8,000 points to erase all of the Trump gains. So just remember that. And the Federal Reserve is raising rates on it to drive it down. They admit they want to kill the Trump recovery. That is a fact. But we don't just stand on the stock market. It is a big bubble. We stand on the record new jobs, record new startups, and innovation, new technologies, new systems. We never know what the new technology like computers or like electricity or anything, you know, the .com, that is going to blast us in the next level. Many bubbles are good if they're based on a real technology and a real infrastructure buildup. And Trump is attempting that. The globalists are doubling down to prop up the Chinese communists right now. But I don't see that going too well. We're joined by Roger Ver, taking your phone calls at Bitcoin.com. I, again, don't know all the little idiosyncratic things with different companies and groups and what they say it's for and what's happening. I just know about the bigger markets and how these systems come and go, and you know some of the basics about fiat currencies and like the Federal Reserve has versus this. So we're going to talk to Garrett, who disagrees first, then Drew, Stefan, Daryl, Patrick, and others. But before we go to these calls, any other key points you want to add, Roger?
Very simply, Bitcoin Cash is usable as money. Bitcoin Core is not, and it's not by design of these people that managed to take over the project and drive away some of the best, most passionate people from the project. And all the early Bitcoin adopters that were so excited about the liberating technology this would become for the entire world, all of them have left the Bitcoin, or most of them have left the Bitcoin Core project at this point, and most of them are with Bitcoin Cash at this point, myself included. Gavin Andreessen, the person that Satoshi Nakamoto basically turned over the project to when he left, as well as a whole bunch of other early adopters of Bitcoin.
Where do you predict this fight's going?
I think because Bitcoin Core has succeeded in making Bitcoin Core not useful as money and not useful as payments, by the end of this year, Bitcoin Core will no longer be the top cryptocurrency. I think one or multiple other cryptocurrencies will supplant Bitcoin Core as top spot that it has today.
And did I hear you right that your platform's up now because people don't like this?
Well, I got involved in Bitcoin because I wanted to enable every single person on the planet to have 100% complete control of their own money. I started running Bitcoin.com, I believe, back in 2015 or 2016. And, we're quickly.
Sure, I'm just saying on the day, everything else is down, but it looks like yours is up.
Sure, and not just for the day. Bitcoin Cash has outperformed Bitcoin Core for the day, for the week, for the last month, for the last 3 months, and for the last 6 months. So Bitcoin Cash has outperformed Bitcoin pretty much on every time period
So that adds credence to the
split
market doesn't like what they're doing, but they're doing, and I guess to try to consolidate control of the market. Is that what you're saying?
The market is, millions of people all over the world getting involved. So there's no one single player that I think is pulling the strings in all this. But for anybody that's looking for a currency that allows them to send and receive any amount of money with anyone, anywhere in the world instantly and without permission from anybody, Bitcoin Cash enables that. Bitcoin Core does not.
Sure. Well, all I'm saying is that adds credence to what you're saying, that they're doing things that are driving down their own worth, but they're in a consolidation phase, and so that's how the globalists operate. Again, I don't know this group from Adam. I'm just trying as a layperson to understand it.
And if you go back to the page that you had up there with all the different cryptocurrency market caps there, you'll see at the very top it says Bitcoin dominance at the very top of the screen, and it'll be around 30-something%, even above the list that you see there at the very top there. And it says 34 point something, I believe. It's a little bit blurry for me right there.
Yes.
If you click on that, you can see the history. And it went from being 90-something% very recently down to the 35.6% that it is today. And that's as a direct result of these people making Bitcoin not usable as money. And guess what? When Bitcoin is not usable as money, people are going to stop using it as money. And when something is slow, expensive, and unreliable, and other alternatives are fast, cheap, and reliable, people are going to start using those alternatives. And that's exactly what we've seen.
All right, well, we've got you on because you're a respected guy out there, and people say you really know what you're talking about. I have to be honest. Again, this is very complex. I understand the basic generalities and how these systems work, but I can't vouch for you or the other groups. I want to be clear about that just because I'm not usually flying somewhat blind. Let's go to somebody that disagrees up front to add some balance to this. Garrett in California, you're on the air worldwide with Roger Ver.
Hey, Alex, big fan. Love your supplements. Just want to say that Bcash is just a fork of the original Bitcoin. And it's a scam. It's a Chinese scam coin that this guy, Roger, who's been arrested for selling explosives and all this other crap, is trying to push his own agenda and actually take down Bitcoin.
Okay, I said arrested for what?
He was arrested.
So I'd love to reply to that.
Well, hold on. Arrested for what?
He was arrested for selling explosives. His Bcash is basically just a fork of the original Bitcoin.
Okay, I heard that part. Okay. We'll come back to you in a minute, Garrett. Go ahead, Roger.
So that's this guy very well could be a paid operative trying to disrupt Bitcoin Cash. It's very simple. The name is Bitcoin Cash, not Bcash. Bcash is a completely separate project, not related at all to BCH, which is in reference to Bitcoin Cash. In reference to me selling explosives on the internet, that's absolutely true. Back in 1999, I sold firecrackers on eBay, back when eBay had a guns and ammo section. I also made the mistake of running for California State Assembly as a libertarian, saying if I were elected, I wouldn't even accept a salary because that comes from people who are paying taxes who might not want to pay my salary. And I complained about the ATF and FBI burning down a bunch of kids to death in a church in Waco, Texas. I wound up being the only person in the entire nation to be prosecuted for selling that product without a permit. And now all these people that don't want Bitcoin to be useful as money go and attack me because I sold firecrackers on eBay. Back
I was about to say, people don't know in most cities, even in Texas, it's firework. You bring fireworks you buy in Travis County into Austin, it's like a felony. But last time I checked, because I had one of my friends as a cop tell me that, because I had like a thing of firecrackers in the back of the car to go to my parents and pop them off because, that's a felony or something. But the point is, let's see how Garrett responds to that. Garrett?
Alex, well, if you look at some of the transaction fees and some of the stuff, Bitcoin was originally developed to be open source, that anybody could mine it. What happened is Roger Ver and his buddy Jihan Wu, they control the miners that basically mine Bitcoin. And they actually won't even allow other people to mine their other Bcash. They basically have cut off the market. So Bcash is actually essentially controlled scam coin that's basically done in China. I only buy Bitcoin. I recommend everybody else to only buy BTC. That's the code for it. Buy Bitcoin. You can buy it pretty much anywhere. But Bcash is a scam. Don't buy it.
This is why I didn't get involved in it. I understand it's got value because it's encoded. We all deserve to have our own digital systems we agree upon in any free society to whether it's Pebbles or gold or Bitcoin, whatever. And then I just knew Wild West that this was going to become huge and explosive. I said that back 8 years ago when I learned about it, 7, 8 years ago from Max Kaiser. But I just knew how anything Wild West turns into this. I'd have to spend all my time studying this just to be able to give my listeners a good opinion. And that's why I stay away from all this, because it gives me a headache, Roger, because you seem like a nice guy. He seems like a nice guy. I don't know what to believe.
Well, I'll give you an example. We're talking about cryptocurrencies. Whether or not I sold firecrackers on eBay more than a decade ago has absolutely nothing to do whether or not Bitcoin Cash is a useful cryptocurrency or not. So why he's bringing up that point. And on the point of Jihan Wu, the first person in the entire world to translate the Bitcoin white paper into Chinese and bring Bitcoin to China, he sells his Bitcoin mining equipment to anyone, anywhere in the world can buy it. The biggest supporter of Bitcoin Core and the Blockstream group is a company called Bitfury, with offices literally on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. They employ a bunch of people that formerly worked at the White House. They don't sell their miners to anywhere. Bitmain out of China, their mining software is open source. Their mining pool software is open source. They'll sell their hardware to anybody. It's very, very clear which of these groups support free speech and open transactions and which one's a bunch of totalitarian tyrants that want to control people and tell them what they can or can't do with their own money.
Who knew the future would look like this? Bitcoins, miners, China, Pennsylvania Avenue. I've heard Eric Prince is big in Bitcoin. I mean, it's just, I try to study all this, and I'm an expert in many areas, but we'll be back to take more calls. This is riveting. I'll admit it. I have a problem. I will do all this research and all this preparation at home, and then once I get here and have all these things I want to cover, and then I get stuck on a few big topics, I never get to it, I get behind. I get behind on calls, I get behind on stories, I get behind on reports, just incredibly important stuff. That's why I'm hosting the 4th hour today. And it's going to be particularly power-packed. The biggest bombshell information has now come out. People overuse bombshell, but this is bombshell, explosive, on Obama quarterbacking the illegal spying on Trump and his entire entourage that I've been telling you about for over a year and a half. It's now all breaking right now. It's on Infowars.com. And so I've been saying, we already know the new stuff coming out in text messages. It just confirms what we already know. But to watch CNN's got me on the front page right now saying Jones is putting out hoaxes with the right-wing media. And then they say, it's a hoax that this email meant something. It's a hoax that there was a secret society. They just said it joking. It was a hoax, they said, insurance policy. So when they say hoax, because you know, CNN will have one headline on the front page. You go to the article, it's different. So it says hoax on the front page. At least it did 5 minutes ago when I was looking at it. And it just gives me a headache because they've been caught red-handed, and I already have the sources that said it's going to be Obama running the whole thing. And just remember, Trump's the president now. He knows all this. And Admiral Rogers told him everything. He's just let them all lie to catch them in perjury. So that's coming up. We're going to your phone calls right now for Roger Ver, dealing with Bitcoin, and the big regulators saying they're coming after it, other cryptocurrencies, the intramural wars going on within the currencies. It's just a kettle of fish. Drew in Indiana, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Alex. First, I want to say it's well known in the Bitcoin community that Roger Ver is a scammer, and this is his latest scam. Just hours before this interview, he manipulated the price of Bitcoin Cash up 25% just to push his narrative. And I do have a question for him. He's been telling everyone that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, but this can be easily proven through cryptography by signing the Genesis block, which means proving that he mined the first Bitcoin. He cannot do that, but Roger continues telling people that this guy is Satoshi Nakamoto, which is a lie.
He must release the core from Cybertron, the heart of our world. Will you release the core?
Why
haven't traded a single.
Will you release the cube? That's right, it's the cube.
So
are you Megatron? Roger Ver, are you Megatron? If so, prepare for battle.
So I'm not Megatron. I haven't traded a single Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin Cash today. Of course, I'm pleasantly surprised that the price is up 25% today, but that isn't because of me, and I don't know who did it, but I think people understand Bitcoin Cash is useful as money. Bitcoin Core is not, and the developers behind Bitcoin Core don't want it to be useful as money, mainly because they don't even understand what made Bitcoin a success in the first place. In regards to me saying that Craig Wright is Satoshi, I have never said that publicly. I have no idea if he's Satoshi or not, and whoever Satoshi is, wherever he is, he deserves to have absolute complete privacy because that's what he wants out of the world. And whether or not Craig Wright is Satoshi or not, the things that he is saying is spot on. They're exactly in line with what made Bitcoin successful. He has an incredibly deep understanding of economics and the reasons that became a success. whether he's Satoshi or not, I think he is someone worth listening to.
Okay. Here's my problem. See, I just want to know about Bitcoin and currency in the markets. This is why I always stay out of all this, and why as soon as I get one Bitcoin guest on, it's like boom, 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 boom more, and then I'm going to be in the middle of all this. I don't know who. I know who the pseudonym or whatever, the Japanese guy, the nom de plume, whatever, or is it a real guy? That's a whole nother area of a soap opera that I don't have the brain space to be involved in with all these other big serious issues happening. So I'm glad we're having a debate, but this is why I stay out of Bitcoin. Good Lord. I mean, Drew, thank you for the call. But I will say this. I don't know Roger Ver. I know he's like one of the kingpins of Bitcoin. Seems like a smart guy. And then all these other guys pile in so quickly that don't like him. It makes my head spin. What's going on here, Roger?
Maybe it's an orchestrated attack. Maybe there are a bunch of people that have been brainwashed by the previous orchestrated attack out there. Anybody with any common sense, you have two forms of Bitcoin. One is fast, cheap, and reliable. The other is slow, expensive, and unreliable.
Sure, but do you see how it all devolved into that discussion instead about the general future about cryptocurrencies, and the establishment clearly is coming after it right now?
Yeah, and I think this is exactly what the establishment would want, a bunch of infighting within Bitcoin so that the cryptocurrency ecosystem, so that people are busy fighting with each other rather than fending off a bunch of regulation and control by governments. And congratulations to the disruptors that you guys have succeeded in disrupting this incredibly liberating tool for the entire planet. But you've just slowed us down. You haven't stopped us. We're still going to enable every single human being.
Well, I think the graph shows that. I mean, it goes up and down, but over time, it's going straight up.
It is. It's more useful than dollars. It's more useful than euros. It's more useful than the Japanese yen, and there's a limited supply. You don't have these central banks that can print as many as they want at any time for any reason. The supply is limited by the laws of mathematics, not the promise of some politicians. And we all know how much we should trust the promise of a politician.
Let's go to, let's see here, Stefan in Pennsylvania. Go ahead, Stefan. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Alex, great to talk to you. I just have really one point to say. I'm kind of new with the whole Bitcoin phenomenon. I just recently started around this December to even purchase it. And one thing I do want to say, though, that I don't think anybody really noticed is on the 21st of December, Trump signed in that executive order targeting, serious human rights abusers and offenders, and since then,
money laundering.
Crackdowns.
Yeah,
exactly. So, and if you actually look at the Bitcoin chart on Google, its highest peak was at around 17.7 on December, I believe, 22nd. It's literally the same time frame. So, from what it looks like to me, I mean, I know there's a lot of speculation that Bitcoin is used as like a dark currency for, underground transactions because of its anonymous, quality to, basically pass money from party to party without,
Sure, but you're saying if you look at the graph from that date, Bitcoin starts going down right around that point. I would imagine a bunch of other underground currencies did as well.
Yeah, exactly. So what I think is a lot of these people that are aware that this crackdown is about to happen, they're selling everything off and jumping ship, like how the Rothschilds are based. Did at
the end of the Napoleonic Wars in 1815, yeah.
Exactly. So I think that is one of the it might be a contributing factor. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. I just wanted to kind of call in because I had this little... Out
of the mouths of babes, brother. Yeah, I don't have my head down in the weeds on this. I'm kind of up here. Man, exactly is that I see it peaking and now this and all of it tied together. And I don't think Trump's targeted himself, but I think what he's done does go after stuff that is beneath the radar. But it's, not Bitcoin's fault that ISIS uses it, or, I mean, it's just, criminals are always going to use everything. We can't ban guns because criminals use it. Any comments on that, Roger?
Yeah, the currency that's used by the most terrorists to do the most bad things around the world is the U.S. dollar. Yet we don't hear the politicians claiming we should ban the U.S. dollar. And if these terrorists start using Bitcoin instead of the U.S. dollar, that's a sign that Bitcoin is a better form of money than the U.S. dollar. So it shouldn't be something that we looked at negatively when people start using Bitcoin for bad things. That just means that it's a better form of money than the other alternatives out there. And at the end of the day, people should be able to use the best form of money that's available to them.
Well, the first thing they do is every time somebody commits a crime, they go look on their computer to see if they ever visited InfoWars. Well, it's one of the top 100 sites. Of course, everybody's visited it. They go, oh, look, this person. And most of the time, it turns out they hated me. All right. Sorry, the other callers. I'm out of time. I appreciate Roger Ver joining us. We got a bunch of world news, Trump's prayer breakfast and more coming up. Very Christian nationalistic. And we got a bunch of big breaking news. I'll hit the training conspiracy as well. Stay with us. We are back live, broadcasting worldwide. I'm your host, Alex Jones. I am going to host the fourth hour today. Again, I wanted to start a fourth hour about 12 years ago, just so I'd have more time for the first 6, 7, 8 years of the broadcast. I only did 3 hours every day at this time. And then I added a 4th hour, and then I had so many duties launching the InfoWars News Center that I cut that hour for a while, for 3 years. Then I brought it back about another 3 years ago, and people host that 4th hour to kind of see who are good talk show hosts, who can handle a big audience and a lot of breaking news. And we found a lot of great people. And with that, we're going to launch a new broadcast here in just the next few months. I intend to be live at least 20 hours a day before 2019. And that is what your support, your prayers, and everything is helping us do here. So again, I salute you all, and I thank you all for what you've done. You know, there's some subjects that are so big that I have a tendency to say I'm going to cover them, and then I just don't cover it because so much breaks during the show that by the time I'm 3 hours in, I'm not really tired. I'm more relaxed. And then I remember the topic I was going to cover and don't feel the same outrage. And then I feel like it's not a proper time to cover it. I'm trying to explain why I do some of these things that I can't stand. And also, I know what the media's response is going to be. And it's not that the media attacks me and lies about me when I cover these topics. It's that it's not that I'm being attacked that gets to me. It's that I know this is the key. Some of these certain areas, there's a lot of keys, but there's, compared to all the rest of the information in the world, it's very rare. And we have the keys. We have the absolute keys. We know the enemy program. We understand it. We're not that smart. I read the books written by them. I read the books. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And I would have been a totally different person if I hadn't stopped reading children's books when I was about 7 years old and started reading adult books. And it was all because my dad loved encyclopedias, and they would not buy me very few toys. I'd have to go mow lawns to get a new bike. It was good. It taught me how to work. But my dad would buy me any books I wanted. And so I'd get home from school or after practice or whatever, and they'd have Time Life books, the Wild Wild West, or Time Life books, the Occult, or Time Life books, World War II, Time Life books, Vietnam, Time Life books, the Manhattan Project and other super science, projects or whatever. And those things would come, so many, that there was just, because my dad's a big book guy, the whole house was just bookshelves then. Funny, kind of the age of TV, it's not with computers. His house now has got a lot of bookshelves, but nothing like the old house in Dallas. And it was just walls of them. And it was like, I read 20-volume set World War II by the time I was 8 years old. I read it. And that was just an encyclopedia on World War II. Well, how many World War II historians actually read that? You see, and that's kind of entry level. By 11, I was reading Order of the Death Set. 1,100 pages or whatever, 900 pages. And Shearer's Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. And that was just one dalliance studying World War II. I've probably read 200 books on World War II. And I'm not bragging about it. I just get around historians and people, and they don't know half of what I know. And it's all embedded in there. And then I studied everything else. And then my dad said, you want to read this, Zbigniew and Brzezinski, Technotronic Era. And, I was reading all the white papers, all the top thinking, Tragedy and Hope. When I was 18, getting politically involved, and some of the local old guys up here were blown away when they'd be talking about some of the stuff, and I knew all about it. And I remember some old guy, forget his name. I was at some gun rally. He said, come on over here. And he and his old wife were retirees, and they were in their RV from like Oregon or something. He said, now, this is a rare book. Because back then it had not been republished, but one time. First 1,000 for the State Department, and then when the plates got out about 10,000, it was one of the original reprints. Now it's reprinted, and we have it at InfoWarsStore.com. I didn't mean to do a plug on it. And it's the one that's 1,100 pages long. And man, you read that. And like 18, I read Tragedy and Hope. And it was like the final piece, because I had read, I don't want to exaggerate, 600, 700 books on modern history, ancient history, warfare, the Roman Empire, the books written by Julius Caesar. He wrote 2 books. I read both of them. They were his letters back to the Senate that were put into books. And so I read Tragedy and Hope, and it was like, I knew what was on the next page. But it was all a secret document, the State Department and the CIA, because they couldn't understand how their whole system was working. And there he was explaining it all to them, and it was like the final pieces went tick, 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 tick. So then when I learned, oh, Barry Goldwater talked about this, and Ron Paul knows about this, those were like my buddies because they knew what I knew. And then you get into the medical side of the tyranny and how they're doing that and everything else, and it's like, Russell Blaylock knew a lot of this stuff, brain surgeon, famous, very successful, invented a bunch of different brain surgery, so he's super rich. And then he started coming on my show about 10 years ago, and I ended up talking to his publisher and people, and they said, oh, you didn't know, you basically, you were the final step with Blaylock. He went and read all these eugenics books and all these doctorate books, and then he moved out to the middle of nowhere and won't talk to anybody. That's why you never hear Blaylock anymore. I mean, he would come on and lay out stuff I'd never even heard. I was looking up. It was even worse than I thought. It's like these psychos all wrote books about this stuff is what I'm telling you, and that's what's frustrating is we're not lying to you. The globalists hate this broadcast because we actually read what they're planning. And then we can extrapolate where they're going with it now. Because you got 90% of it, well, where the roadmap goes isn't hard to guess. Let's say you're coming up to mountains and your road map ends, but you're on a highway. You see the valley. Well, the road's going to go through the valley. So that's what I'm telling you, folks, is what's so frustrating. Is that the very people fighting us, 99% of them, don't even know any of this. They don't understand any of it. They don't know it. They don't want to know it. They just want talking points to repeat and get their paycheck and go home and watch Netflix. And that's what's so frustrating is I'll put out this info when we start the next hour. At 6 after, I'm getting into it. It'll take me a week. It's not even that. I'm trying to build it up. It's not even that big an issue. You already know it. It's just that they're now admitting it. And then they're going to have a headline, Alex Jones hates gay people. And it's not that they're attacking me with that hurts me. It's that it has nothing to do with gay people. Nothing. And I say that on the show, and then they clip it and edit it, and a Nazi collaborator with a funded group edits it and puts it out as a lie so you won't learn about it, and then they'll have Colbert, and then they'll have Homeland on Showtime, and they'll have all these shows come out and say, I'm Alex Jones as an actor, and then say horrible things out of my mouth I didn't say to psychologically inoculate you to not listen to me, because I've noticed what they do. The one thing they're so scared of is the chemicals in the food and the water and the turning us into these hermaphroditic, sterile creatures. And that's their whole agenda. And then they've got a semantical plan built into it where they're going to outlaw the criticism and the warning of this chemical, biological apocalypse that is about to happen. And that's the whole point, is that needs to be explained, how once they get you to ban one word, every other domino falls, and I have their plan, reverse engineered. And if we don't stop them, it's the end of the species. This is so alien, this attack. And I would love the next few years to say that things are stable enough. We'll still have globalist forces, obviously, and pockets of them, and we are not authoritarian, so as long as they don't openly involve in sedition, they'll be allowed to operate. Our political system, our worldview, our political proofs of genuine success and durability and happiness are so much more genuine than anything they push. It shouldn't be a problem, but with their media semi-dominant still, it is a serious problem. But the point is, I would love to be able to retire those liners, because to admit we were no longer the United States of America to a great extent was the beginning of becoming the United States of America again. People would hear that and they'd think, Alex is demoralizing us. He's being negative. And I even learned some globalists and had debates about us And it was decided, oh, they're defeated. Let him scare the hell out of them. Because I know it was discussed having me taken out. In fact, I was physically attacked quite a few times in war and other things. But then the decision was made by some of the combines that I was a joke, just like you're a joke, they think, and that he'll just scare everybody. Because they knew what I was saying was accurate, 99% of it. None of us are perfect. And so they let us operate until we were too big and it was too late. And Hillary Clinton was up there saying, what type of dark heart do you have to say the type of things I say about her? See, she made it personal because she knows I was having the women on that she represented men against who were little girls when those men raped them to the point of not even, I mean, two women we've had on that she fought against in rape cases. One of them was 11 years old. I don't want to go into the details of that again, but it takes a lot to take an 11-year-old girl that 7 men raped and to wreck them. And that's who Hillary is. So it's this big joke. They launched this whole thing about how they're going to protect women and everything when they're the monsters. And that's why they hate us, is because they know we've got their number and we're crazy enough to go ahead and just say it. In fact, almost no coverage of the Quentin Tarantino information where he on Howard Stern said Roman Polanski kidnapping, drugging, and raping an 11-year-old girl anally. And you can read the police reports, so she bled all over the place. Yeah, I guess she said she was consenting when she was passed out. Later, she sure wasn't when she ran back to mommy and said, I'm really hurt. But according to Harvey Weinstein's best buddy and the #1 person Weinstein produced for all his race-baiting garbage films, Mr. Mutanoid, says that it was consensual for Roman Polanski to stick his filthy, diseased proboscis into that little girl. Meryl Streep thinks it's great, too, because she's a sack of garbage. And see, you think these sacks of garbage like us here? I remember one time a top Hollywood producer with one of the top lawyers in Hollywood, I said the name, you look it up, it's the top, threatened me. And I'm not looking for trouble. And I just told him, go ahead and fill your hand. And then they were shaking in fear because everyone else grovels to these people like they're God. And not all of Hollywood's bad. Clint Eastwood's awesome. There's other great people. They all just keep their head down, live nowhere near Hollywood, and battle it from afar. Take Clint Eastwood's new movie coming out. Review, Clint Eastwood, 1517 to Paris, is an eclectic mix of patriotic, Christian, and cutting edge, and will resonate in the heartland. Showbiz 411. And you're like, okay, but glorifying this and everything, it's cheesy. No, it's not. Not when the other thing is people saying it's okay to have sex with your children. See, they've been trying to destroy Christianity, destroy heroism, destroy men that are willing to take action because these criminals are scared of that. And see, Clint Eastwood wants to say, no, that's what we're proud of, is people that take action in the face of overwhelming odds. That's what we stand for because it's the right thing. And that's why they fear him. I've gotten to know people at the highest levels of Hollywood. And since the whole quasi-collapse of it, I've gotten to know people that are in this conservative secret society. Big producers, some of the biggest. And none of them live in Hollywood. None of them want to be anywhere near it. And they try to just do decent stuff. And strangely enough, everything they do is a hit. Isn't that crazy? The most successful people long range in Hollywood are the libertarian, Christian, conservative patriots. Because you know what? That's what America wants anyway. See, that's the crazy thing about this. Is all of you people that went along with the power structure so long thinking you'd feather your own nest while you poison your own culture and it blew back on your own children. Don't have step one. Don't crap in your pool. Don't piss in your own pool. Don't piss in anybody's pool. Because if you're pissing in somebody else's pool, it'll be okay for them to piss in your pool. Treat people like you want to be treated. But there's this attitude from the Harvey Weinsteins that it's okay. Take Quentin Tarantino saying it's not bad. That little girl wanted it, a little 13-year-old girl. And even Howard Stern's like, that's really sick. I've got a young daughter that age. You're making me... Quentin, go back on this. Quentin's like, no. Because the biggest thing is to say it out in the open. And Quentin Tarantino was such a protected demon that no one but Gawker picked it up and said, oh, Jones has covered and resurfaced Tarantino defending the rape of a 13-year-old girl by Roman Polanski. Think about that. Here's audio of Quentin Tarantino defending Roman Polanski, 13-year-old girl, wanted to have it. If you scroll down. That's what it takes, is for us to put that out, and then you just get one little blurb of it. So, oh my gosh, they'll talk about some Hollywood guy who's not really powerful, who pushed his girlfriend's head down because she wasn't going far enough down on him. And that's not good. That's jerky and weird, and I don't support it. That's the big news, though, is a guy a little rough with his girlfriend. Instead of people raping little girls that they grabbed and drugged. And there's always women that provide the little girls so they feel safe. So there's a woman there, so no one would ever believe anything happened because there's a woman there and wonder what type of women are there. I think we know what type. They're the big mavens of Hollywood. They're the scum. They're the enemy. They're the curse. They're the problem. Oh, there's one now. These people are sick. And you have to understand, they don't just want to abuse women or men or anybody. They want power. They want to mess with people. They want to kick your pregnant wife down the stairs and have her have a miscarriage and have it done in your place with your people so that everybody can say that Alex Jones did it. But I made a decision that even though that was 16 years ago, I'm not normally a vengeful person. I move forward, but I decided just right in my heart now to come after you. And so I am starting next week. Oh, yeah, people like me tell you we're coming. And we walk into traps. So that's what this is all about. You operate in the dark, I operate in the light. And we'll see how you do when I drag your ass out in the light. Because you're never going to get away with what you've done and all the things you've engaged in. And I think the fall of that piece of crap, he is worshipped in Hollywood. Not because his film's the very worst produced ever. They're just sophistic crap. But because he's a degenerate, filthy scumbag. And I think it's time we have people on to talk about Quentin Tarantino. Because you guys didn't pick that report up I put out this week. So now we're going to release more. Coming for you. Coming for you. You want to walk over like a jack-o'-lantern head demon and throw your weight around? That's fine. But what came next wasn't good. And so I'd suppressed that, and now I remember it. Now I see the stars aligning. The real stars, not the false ones, for your demise, politically. We'll be back. Stay with us. The stock market's now 600 points down with an hour until close. We'll cover it all. But first, Obama's Muslim Brotherhood buddy's in trouble.
Tariq Ramadan, a French-Swiss Muslim academic and a professor of contemporary Islamic studies at Oxford, has been denied bail. As France 24 reports, a French judge decided on Tuesday to keep prominent Islamic scholar Tariq Ramadan in detention 4 days after he was handed preliminary rape charges in cases brought by two women who had sought his counsel. This is the same Sharia scholar praised by Barack Obama. He was elected by Time magazine in 2000 as one of the 7 religious innovators of the 21st century, and by Foreign Policy readers as one of the top 100 most global thinkers. Ramadan describes himself as a Salafi reformist, essentially an advocate of Sharia law.
How many times have you heard this? Islam just needs a reform. Well, why does it need a reform? Well, then it would be nicer without that jihad business. Look, you ever notice something about these reformer people? They're apologists for Islam, or they're a member of an insignificant group of Muslims. They just simply don't count. Quran is perfect, Sirah is perfect, Hadith is perfect. You can't reform them. The doctrine is systemic. It's not just a little bitty tweak here or there. There's no body of authority that can approve any changes you make, and then it's not broken. Why fix it? So these are the reasons that Islam cannot be reformed. I don't care how nice the person is who says it can be.
Ramadan has long been criticized as an adept of taqiyya, the Muslim practice of lying to non-believers to further Sharia.
Falling in love, dancing, all of these offend them, and violence to all this is their usual response. Calling for civility, censorship, silence, or respect for the offended is merely heeding the Islamist demand for blasphemy laws at the expense of dissenters. Mr. Ramadan says he is not Charlie or Paris. Instead, he says he is those who are under investigation.
But most importantly, Ramadan is the grandson of Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. After the State Department had used the Patriot Act to bar Ramadan from the United States for 6 years, in 2010, Ramadan was granted a visa by none other than an overseer of the Arab Spring, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. That same year, he was a keynote speaker for the Council of American and Islamic Relations. In 2015, Michelle Malkin, writing for the New York Post, wrote, "Reminder, the feds designated CARE an unindicted terror co-conspirator in 2007 in the prosecution of the Holy Land Foundation and others for providing support to Hamas jihadists. Over the alleged objections of Dallas area federal prosecutors, the Obama Justice Department's senior political appointees declined to press terror financing charges against CARE co-founder Omar Ahmad."
I've come here to Cairo to seek a new beginning between the United States and Muslims around the world. One based on mutual interest and mutual respect. And one based upon the truth that America and Islam are not exclusive and need not be in competition. Instead, they overlap and share common principles. Principles of justice and progress, tolerance, and the dignity of all human beings.
And now, as it seems with many of those praised by the left, Tariq Ramadan faces sexual assault and rape charges. According to France 24, one of the 4 victims, 2 of which are alleging rape against Ramadan, Henda Ayari, attested that to her, Tariq Ramadan believes that either you wear a veil or you get raped. Ayari said her resistance was met with violence and spoke of her trauma after the incident and how Ramadan sought to stay in touch with her. Allegedly, the scholar told Ayari she did not know how to take care of a man and that we'll have to learn. Ayari alleges that Ramadan wanted her to be his sex slave and that he would pay for her journeys to Paris. After she refused to meet him again, she said he threatened to attack her children. But Tariq Ramadan has brushed off the accusations, claiming that they were a campaign of slander clearly orchestrated by his longtime adversaries. Adding to the chaos, ISIS recently released a video depicting a major attack on Paris, declaring the conquering of Paris before Rome. Tariq Ramadan, a respected voice amongst Muslims throughout Europe, is allegedly nothing less than what we can expect of the heir apparent to the Muslim Brotherhood network, leading a seemingly unstoppable hijra into the heart of Europe. John Bound reporting for Infowars.com.
We'll be back on the other side. Tomorrow's News Today. Transmission accelerates. I have a tendency to get into the forest instead of just describing it as a forest. I have a tendency to start getting into long historical diatribes and giving evidentiary information out. Instead of just being Paul Revere, oneth by land, toeth by sea, and here come the redcoats. So he starts riding down the road saying the redcoats are here. He didn't say, I was there and I saw them landing and they were on their horses and they had troops marching with weapons and they had red uniforms with gold buttons and I saw the general behind him, at least 10,000. He said, to arms, the redcoats have landed. The British are here. Why can't I just say that? Because they will then take what I say and twist it. I'm going to say this up front, and they're going to ignore it, and they're going to lie about what I'm saying because they don't want you to see it. And I know you as an audience see it, but I'm talking about the general public. It's in the white papers. It's in the text. Now they're saying it in the news that in the 50s and 60s, the decision was made that there was overpopulation. They were going to adopt eugenics-based ideas of chemicals in the food, in the water, to lower fertility and to lower IQ to make the general public more manageable. And that's in Eco-Science, written by the White House science czar, Obama, Holdren, in 1974. He wrote that. He was a science czar decades later. See, I'm already getting into the evidence instead of just giving you the general announcement. Then I can get into the evidence, and you can research the evidence for yourself, because don't you want to research the evidence, which is bigger than I can even describe, bigger than I even know. There's always endless reams of evidence. It's so gargantuan that it's like standing on Kona, the big island in Hawaii, beautiful island chain, most remote in the world, and saying, prove to me there's a Pacific Ocean. And I just look at you and I say, well, I was brought up in the 20th century and the 21st century, and we have satellites, and I flew here, and it's real, and it exists, and we call it the Pacific Ocean. Here's the history of it, and it's the largest ocean of 76% of our land mass covered by salt water, 1% fresh water, not counting aquifers, 2% below ground, and aggregate scans may be up to 5%. Saying total, really, the Earth's covered almost 82% by water and geographical coverage on the surface land mass, but if you actually look at it like the skin of an apple, it's the whole atmosphere, and our entire ecosystem is only a very thin, small area that we cohabitate upon on this third rock out from the standard yellow sun, 2/3 of the way out of the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy in deep space. I mean, again, knowledge is just endless. You can always blast out from any point and have unbelievable compendiums and reams of information. But here's the bottom line. There is a biological, cultural, mathematical, systematic attack to make having children and to make having families and to make building human societies and cultures impossible. From the taxes to the regulations to the work weeks to the travel to the chemicals and the biologicals to the propaganda to the medicalized tyranny to the brainwashing, to start out with, don't say the N-word. Sounds totally reasonable. I don't say it, was brought up not to say it. Because I'm a good guy. I don't need to look down on somebody to feel big. A lot of those folks you're looking down on are better than you at many things. So why would I join that culture? And then it's, we're going to ban Nazis. Well, I don't like Nazis. Well, now you're a Nazi. Oh, I'm banned now. You just called me one. Didn't matter. I'm not. See how it works. So the FCC has, 7, 8 words you're not supposed to say on radio and TV if it's broadcast. But then the word tranny, which was created 20-something years ago by people in that community that want to identify as women and like men, like women, you name it, and want to do that. Do I hate those people? Absolutely not. Did I ever say I hated them? No. And it's not like they beat me over the head until I said I wasn't against it. It's a lot of it's destructive lifestyle, heavy suicide, big problems. But I'm not even judging those people who are human beings. I don't hate them. I don't need to feel like they're bad and they have problems and I'm this big moral guy when I certainly am not perfect, let me tell you. I'm probably more wicked than they are in some respects, if you see that as wicked. But you look at that word. We got a call last year, and we recorded the vice president and Facebook, Twitter, and they said, listen, you can stay on, but there's one thing. We're going to put this report out soon. There's one thing you can't say, and that's tranny. Now, there's so much to that. And I said, well, That's a term created by that community. Well, Facebook and Twitter judged in 2017 that it's a hate word, so it's gone. See, and once you accept that you can't say the new N-word, then it's another word and another word. But why did they choose that word? Because it's trans. It has nothing to do with men that want to be women or women that want to be men and all the rest of it. It's once they get you. Yeah, they called the police on people that said tranny on the radio. That's Daily Caller. They arrest you in California if you say that. Once they say that, now transhumanism, if you study eugenics, in 1949, they voted at the World Eugenics Society to call themselves transhumanist because Hitler and their funding of Hitler had made it look bad. So Julian Huxley, brother Aldous Huxley, all that Brave New World stuff you read about in the early 30s. They said, how did you know this? Well, it's the plan. Now you see it happening. His brother said, we've been embarrassed, so now we're going to be transhumanists. We're going to improve humans. Well, that's your right if you think it's improvement, but what it means is take control governmentally of human development through chemicals, through biologicals, through culture, through brainwashing, through media, through education. Okay? This is all their own admission. This isn't my opinion. This is them, remember, saying all this. If you're a radio listener, the crew's just randomly searching what I say and just finding articles that say it and putting it up because it's them saying it. So once they get you to say, hey, don't even say a word that has to be with transitional. Don't even discuss human evolution, whether it's self-directed, because that's a very human trait, is to self-direct what you want to be, your environment, who you want to be, how long you want to live, what you want to do. It is a very human thing to be a man and to say, I want to be a woman, or to be a woman and say, I want to be a man. I'm not saying that's the human thing or a good human thing. I'm saying it's very human to say, I want to be something different. I want to build something. I want to change myself. I want to, that's what we do. We control our environment. We're the only species that does it. And whatever we envision, we can end up building. But once they get you to accept that, then they can go into the schools, they can tell your children, you confuse their sex, they can brainwash them for an agenda where they want to be 50 different things. And I made the point, there's these shows on History and Discovery, I don't even watch much TV, and I see people who love their cars and marry them. This woman loves her blender. And I'm like, that's just crazy. It's a fetish, it's weird, whatever. I don't hate that person. Not going to spread any disease having sex with the VFW's tailpipe. And the headline is, Alex Jones says gay men are going to rape your car. All over the news. Didn't say that. But see, once they say, don't criticize gay men, don't criticize trans, then they can say, don't criticize people that have 4 parents and aren't really people. Because they're not. They're something new. Don't say you're a person. See, there's another key to understand all this. Take zoological experiments. Take how humans have rights, animals have rights, but all these transhuman zoological experiments they have declassified, they've done for 40 years. They declassified it 20 years ago, that they'd done it 20 years before. So 40 years of human-animal hybrids, human-human hybrids, 5 genetics of men, women, all of it. It's been artificially made. Artificially made. And now if you discuss that it's artificially made, or what is it, or does it have rights, you're done, you're gone, you're bad, you're a hate monger. And that's why this is a critical area. They said, how do we get them to accept men becoming women, women becoming men? Because once they do that, they'll accept the brain chips, all of it, splicing with animals, people that really aren't people, humanoids, and then that's it. This is it. This is the total mainlining of ending humanity as we know it, and it's being force directed at our children. It's not a choice to become something new. It's being forced. Alex Jones here, back live. There is a blitzkrieg taking place against the human condition. We're being put into an artificial construct for control, for reverse engineering, and then for extermination. That is the admissions of the globalists. Elon Musk has warned you that they worship AI gods they believe are about to show up on the scene who demand humanity be exterminated first. Now, that said, let me quantify this. The whole trans movement has nothing to do with homosexual men. It has nothing to do with trans people. It has to do with attacking language, saying you will not call someone heterosexual or homosexual. The very debate about someone's chromosomes and biological preset is illegal. So now he was a gay lad. It was a gay day. That language is expropriated from homosexual to gay. Just like no one will say Caucasoid. Caucasus Mountains has nothing to do with saying bad things about white people. Or they want to change the name of Negro Modelo. It means black beer. You can't use the scientific name for black people. Has nothing to do with saying they're bad because it has an N on the front of it. So once you can't use the N word, now you can't use N. I remember in middle school, people getting upset because they were doing geography and saying, this is Niger. Niger sounds like the N-word. You see the mental illness? And the globalist psychologists are running this, and they want to reduce world population. So the Tavistock Institute in the 60s, this is public, they're very proud of it, developed a plan for trans-nation, trans-world. And once you say to children in the 5th grade, starting, but now in the 1st grade, you're a girl, you could be a boy. You're a boy, you could be a girl. Soon then it's, you can't say boy or girl because someone else might not be that. It hurts them. So what is the key? This whole trans movement is about outlawing science. It's about outlawing male and female chromosomes. That is absolute scientific fact. And then scientists come out like Jordan Peterson in Canada and says, listen, I don't hate you if you want to be something else, but you biologically were born as this. And now Google executives, it's come out in lawsuits, and they admit this, get in front of a whole amphitheater of people last year and say, I am a golden dragonet, a female dragon. I'm an expansive building. I have yellow scales. Everyone goes, you are a dragonet. You have expensive building. And that's a cult programmer. If a Google exec got up and said, I'm God, they say you're a cult leader. But if you chant, I am a golden dragonet, they are making you say 2 + 2 = 5. They are making you, with all these articles, like they'll have hundreds of articles a week, like Jones is insane. He claims there's only 2 sexes. He claims it's chromosomal. He claims families existed. And they just attack and go, he's insane, he's crazy, they're nuts, they're nuts. It's a gaslighting of you, not of me. So that you give in to that. And then the sky's the limit. And then there's scientific, psychological warfare technicians who are going to go in when people in the trans community have the highest level of suicide of any group in the world. Worse than veterans, farmers, gay men, any of it. They have been captured, they have been confused, they are being abused, they are being hurt, and they're sucked into a very dangerous underworld of people that want to abuse them. Almost every, quote, trans person is a escort who has to have sex with dozens of people a day, and they end up killing themselves. That's a fact. And then the left covers that up, doesn't want to discuss that, because they're using these people just like Hollywood does. Just like Quentin Tarantino says, sex with children isn't a bad thing if it's consensual. He defends Roman Polanski because they're pigs. And they want to lower barriers of families in any definition because now people that have been, had pled guilty to raping little 8-year-old, 6-year-old girls in Illinois just a few weeks ago said, I identify as a child. And the court's looking at it saying, maybe it's legal. Can children have sex with each other? And so if you're a 40-something-year-old man, raping a 6-year-old girl, just say you're a little boy and it's okay. You see, it's all semantical games. And then once you let them play games and tell a professor that he can't say to his students, listen, I'm not against homosexuals or heterosexuals, but using the term heterosexual or homosexual is just science. Homogeneous just means within your group. You're a male, you're with a male. You're a woman, you're with a woman. It has nothing to do with a judgment. But it becomes this whole idea to make people victims, and now you must accept every form of trends, including, I want to put Drano in my eyes, I'm blind. And the National Health Service says, yes, hundreds of people a year, and it's growing to thousands, they project, are blinded. And the psychologist pours the Drano in lovingly. It's not abuse. So you're not abusing a mentally ill person, you're loving them. And now the state pays and they're blind because they identify as a purple penguin. It's the deep space. Did humans make this up? Sounds like a science fiction book. Who would come up with something like this to convince us to commit genetic suicide? And I've got the articles I haven't gotten to yet where they say, oh, trans is good to lower population, actually. Oh, who would have thought of that? Oh, who would have? Oh, it's so good. You can't say you're a mother or father or a boy or girl because that hurts someone. Your identity as male or female, okay, dump Drano in your eyes, okay, chop your genitals off, I'm not paying for it, that's hate. And if you'll capitulate to that level of insanity, you'll capitulate to anything. I am a golden dragon. You are a golden dragon. Can you imagine a cult movie like that? I am a beautiful ornate building. You're a beautiful ornate building. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And that's their whole plan, admitted to end our species as you know it, using these poor people as the victims. And you've got whole communities of abusers who are heterosexual and homosexual feeding on these desperate mentally ill people and enjoying it. Let's go out to break with Mr. Peterson, the professor, Jordan Peterson, on National Channel 4, and the woman is speechless. Here it is.
Cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like, you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I have exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on. And that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and... I'm just trying to work that out. I mean...
Can't talk. Just pure logic.
Ha, gotcha.
They are given that information. They are told to go with it, but they can hit us in the head with bike locks, attack us, lay down in front of military parades, everything. But we don't have speech. See, they're saying we're not human because we're human, but if you identify as not human, you suddenly have all these rights. That sounds like an alien invasion program to me. Everyone but humans has rights. It's so scientific. It's so complete. And it's admitted by the Tavistock Institute. Look it up on their own website. They're very proud of it. They've got it where they're teaching 3-year-old boys they're girls and vice versa in the UK now. And how much they love women and women's culture and women don't need men and women. We're the state. We're the psych warfare chiefs. Come to us. You can spiritually see them. You're like being sucked in by the monster from Stranger Things. I mean, it's that spiritually. Big black spider. That's how I describe it. And it's incredibly abusive. Camille Paglia says teaching 5-year-olds that they're another sex, don't even know what that means, is child abuse. Well, she's been out of favor for 30 years because she's not a self-destructive person. She talks about these decadent cycles. But the globalists have taken decadent cycles and codified it into a religion. So Jordan Peterson, I mean, I covered him last year when this happened and right through it, but now they try to keep him off TV. And all he says is, we have 2 sets of chromosomes. We're men and women women have a whole other set of chromosomes. And in mammal species, but in other species, there's a male and there's a female. And they have articles here where professors and others are scolded for playing Jordan Peterson video in class because neutrally playing a speech by Hitler is what they compared it to. And all he is a professor, a psychologist, saying, no, there are men and women. And that's what they're doing. They're saying To say men and women exist is a hate crime. And California passed a law that if you don't use pronouns, what if I'm not good at English? G, Z, different, like a joke I made 5 months ago or 3 months ago. It was like L, B, G, Q, D, L, Z, A, B, C, D, Q, F, G, W, X, I, M, Z, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I said, when is it going to be this big, long thing? And sure enough, they've come out with some new long thing, just like I said, and said, you better know this. It's a cult of bullying crazies who aren't guys that like guys or women that like women. It has nothing to do with that. They take our natural openness of the West. We're like, well, okay, yeah, okay. Whatever you're into, as long as you don't mess with me, do what you want. And now it's bestiality, it's everything else, and it's all a bunch of Quentin Tarantinos on Howard Stern saying, if a little girl is 13 and wants to have sex with a 40-year-old man, it's okay. And Howard Stern says he drugged her. And Quentin says, oh, yeah. Even Howard Stern said, man, that's evil, because it is. Because you want 50-year-old men, 60-year-old men courting at your house for your 5-year-old? I'm here to see little Jenny. And then the left gets in line with whatever the new cult thing is to genuflect and virtue signal. So you walk into Target, it's an image of a little girl's butt sticking out, very pedophilic, and it says it's trans baby, feminist baby. We've got it back there. It was in, I left it like the producer's office back there. It's somewhere back in the radio office. And you see it, it's everywhere, and it's like people that are just in to degeneracy. And listen, if adults want to do degenerate things, that's your issue. Don't do it to children. Because here's the thing. I rode a bicycle and I've been around the block. And I could have had sex with the most beautiful women in Hollywood, and I never did it. You know why? Every time they didn't have a soul, I couldn't get attracted to them because it was all fake. And all the rest of it. And let me tell you something. These people have no souls. They're not happy unless they're doing bad stuff. Here it is. Feminist baby right here. Okay? And you open it up and it's a baby sticking its butt out. I went into a pizza place and there was a young man who told me that he was a drag queen. And my wife and I were in there a couple months ago, and he said, do you hate me because I'm a drag queen? And I said, no, I really don't. But I said, well, I saw that video you put out about with Millie Weaver about the drag queen festival here in Austin at the hotel. And I said, yeah, where you had 2-year-old and 3-year-old kids with men pole dancing, shaking their ass in their face, and little kids giving them money. I said, as a heterosexual, I don't even go to strip bars, but I've been to them, obviously, in my life in college. I said, I would never sit there and bring my 3-year-old to a strip bar. They wouldn't let him in to begin with, to go up and stick money in the panty line of a woman or a man. And the individual was so jacked up on the spiritual thing of being a woman and being into that, and we embryonically begin as women, that they weren't even listening. It was like a spirit. It was just completely caught up in it. And I said, I got the video. That's obscene. And he is just a man. He goes, well, I hear you. But I know all the top drag queens. And started naming them like he was naming to me the names of gods. And see, that's what this is. This is people who know we're an open, tolerant society, who aren't happy and nothing ever delivers them to make them happy. So they're telling us like a cult, you're going to worship Jim Jones. That's really what it was. Because I said, I don't hate you as a person. And I've been around the block. Probably more than you've been around the block. And I'm telling you, where you're going is destructive, and I care about you. And it's like, I don't care. I know you don't hate me, but you're not going to stop us. And my wife was basically just shaking her head. And then I got I'm eating the pizza, strutting around in front of us business. And it's just like those lesbian women that time when Shane Steiner, strongest guy I know, can bench press 400 pounds like 30 times, okay? And he's not even big. He's solid muscle, jiu-jitsu all day long. I'm in the main event, bowling, and it was like for family bowling and pool and video games. And there's these 100-pound lesbians. And I don't mad they're women like, I mean, I'm not attacking them because they're lesbians. They're lesbians. And they got duck's ass haircuts like James Dean. And they got cigarette packs under their arm. And we're trying to pull. And they're over there hitting on his wife, you know, saying things to her right in front of us like we don't exist. You got some guy that'll tear your arm out of your socket. You got me. I mean, I'm not a pushover. And there's these 100-pound women pretending to be men and trying to muscle in on his beauty queen wife. And she just said, this is a joke. She was laughing at him and we left. But that's what I'm saying. It's an act of dominance. If you're around this stuff, you realize they're like, oh, we get you're not against us. We're taking over. And you're like, okay, and we could take on 500 of you in physical combat. But see, that isn't what matters. They've got the media and they've got our goodwill and they're going to program us. All they want is for us to submit to them. And it's whatever they're being programmed by. It'll change next week. It's all centralized. The Dow would need to lose close to 8,000 points to erase the last 14 months' gains, but it has close to gone down 2,000 points this week. It's at 24,000, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, 056.58. Down 836 juicy points. And the Federal Reserve swore last Friday they were going to raise rates this year 3 times, and they haven't done it. Never did that to Obama in 8 years, but they're doing it now. You know, our real wealth is our genetic wealth. Our real wealth is our family wealth. Our real wealth is our connection to God. And I've wanted to root the stock market. I've wanted to root the new jobs. Trump's doing a yeoman's job, working hours that I at 44 couldn't work, that he does at 71. A true titan. You know, most men don't want to honor other men and their strength, but Trump's strength is our strength. He's totally real. My spirit knows it, and the evidence shows it, doesn't it? So this is a big time right now. And they know Trump's weakness is that he wants us to win. He wants to show the win. He wants to prove he's real. He's very dog-like. He's like a, oh, what's the famous dogs that'll kill themselves going out in the snow for days? St. Bernard. It's like a St. Bernard. And I don't mean that as an insult, to be connected to a dog. To say someone's dogged, dog-like, it's one of the highest compliments there is. And what really matters is they don't get your children. They don't get you. Russia has been under incredible sanctions for 15 years for not going along, and that made them stronger. So I want to go these routes of trying to bypass this and, you know, fix it and turn it back on and take care of the people and everything. But whoever said America deserved all that, because the fact that we've gotten so much delivered to us in 1 year and Trump's approval rating's not at 75 shows we're weak-minded. Oh, but I just heard a car wreck sound. We're a record skipping. They had a whole index of polls last week that showed Trump was at 70 to 79 points in scientific polls. They're doing 9 to 15 point more sampling for Democrats. I don't even know how that's popular. 90% support? He broke their back with that speech. We broke their back. You broke their back. They're bullying, all their scientific evil. We broke their back with God's help. And just like clockwork, like I said last Friday, I said they're going to raise those rates. We can see it plunge next week. That wasn't rocket science, man. It's just looking at the facts. The globalists have bet everything on communist China because it's evil, it's suppressive, it's dominating, it's totally outlawed Christianity. They didn't do that under Mao. This year they announced it's all banned. After the Pope said to all the Catholic priests, give all your information over to the government, and he helped them roll them up. I mean, what an antichrist. So this is an epic time to be alive right now. You're going to see who's who. I just pray to God to strengthen in me, because even the elect could be deceived that what's coming in the next few years, the next decade, I got a gut feeling the next 20, 30 years, this is going to be pretty much wrapped up, don't you? Yeah. 20, 30 years. That's the length of this age. That's the overhang of the old era and then the whole new era, not the establishment new age. Everything they have is a counterfeit. There is a real new age with Jesus Christ at the head of it. And if you read what's in Revelation and don't know, that was a divine warning so that you'd hopefully listen, because you have free will. God gives you free will, but we're God's children, and then God feels, I don't want to say guilty, but has a mastery of logic. You're going to be given free will, but you're going to be given warnings because God loves you. Just like you love a plant in your house, or you love your dog, or you love your child even more. God loves a sparrow more than you can imagine, as the Bible says. Imagine how much God loves you. God made you in his mind. But because God loves you so much, you've been given free will. As a true, sentient being with unlimited potential in the time-space continuum, not through yourself, but through the species. And when you realize you're an individual, but you are a collective, not a collective put on an individual, you are an individual who creates a collective, which is called teamwork. It is the fusion of individualism with the collective is the magic, the true fusion of the human experience. And everything the enemy does is to sabotage that innate power and try to shackle it so that fallen individuals under the dominion of the fallen one, take a look where we're at. Yeah, exactly. Deep space, the fallen one, it's all there. Trying to sabotage an amazing thing that's happening. You don't just think God creates something beautiful and magic like this with all its potential that we can't even imagine, and then there aren't bad things because of free will in the universe that can't mess with God, but can try to infest one of the eggs. But that's the big joke. God sits back and says, you're going to test that. And it's got free will, so that the argument that God is a sadist from some, I could see. But reality is about struggle. True sadism is creating robots, unconscious things that don't matter. This is the great will. And the fact that God will put us in the bacon grease is a blessing. We all know animals that are fed at the park become unhappy, bloated, and corrupt. Those that defend themselves are beautiful. Look at the falcon in the tree. And you wonder, how could something be so beautiful and so majestic and so incredible? Because it's born out of pure, simplistic beauty and complexity unfathomed. Because the simplicity is the complexity. And then you stare upon it, and then you look at some diseased, fat Japanese monkey that everybody feeds that can hardly walk by the hot pool it sits in, and it's mean and throws crap at the visitors that feed it. They give it all the food. It weighs 200 pounds. It should weigh 100 pounds. And the visitors come to give it food, and it throws crap at them and utters gibbering curse words. God has given us the gift. The fire of Promethean consciousness. It all lays out before us. All right, I got so into the news today, I didn't plug in the last hour and barely plugged them before, and I am my own worst enemy. But you put up with me, and that's what matters. We got a bunch of big sales that are ending, and if you choose to keep wrecking the globalists and wreaking havoc against their satanic operations, then you will breathe incredible fire and life into what we're doing by believing in what we're doing. And I just go out and say, what's the best-selling supplements out there? How do I make them even better? Then how do I discount them? Icarin is a 30-day liver and kidney cleanse, and it is all the known natural compounds that absolutely aid your body in doing things the globalists hope you don't do. So find out about Icarin, our latest product, 50% off out of the gates. We also have Bodies, which is the ultimate turmeric formula. 400+ milligrams of the strongest concentrate. Leading competitors are like 3%. We're 95. And by the way, we may have to go bottle by bottle in the testing. We may have to lower it if we can't get it. We got a 95. We went with it. Nobody ever got that. So it is the best turmeric out there with all the other stuff that supports it. Bodies, that sells about 10–50% off. And we've launched Fortified Supply. Again, about a year plus ago, they banned us off Google ads and a bunch of the platforms. And I said, let's create a stealth website that's high quality shopping cart and not say it's us. And then now that it's done and ready, I just said, you know, it's not a deception because it is an affiliate, another corporation I set up, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try to get advertising on Google and everywhere else and let them ban me, and then that's the lawsuit the lawyers have decided we're going to do. In fact, I'm letting them know I'm coming. So hopefully they just back off and stop violating my free speech. I don't want to do this. But Fortified Supply, everything, it's on there. It's an amazing new site, highest quality, best technology, best cybersecurity, all of it. And that gives them even more shopping carts to attack whenever they launch those monthly attacks or whatever. Air and water filters, bug-out bags, privacy, security, stockpile. It's all there, fortifiedsupply.com. But know this, whether it's got a bunch of specials, 50% off on our True Way.
This program contains language and sequences some viewers may find disturbing.
The nation and all of our freedoms hang by a thread, and the military apparatus of this country is about to be handed over to scum, who are beholden to scum, Russian scum.
Listen, please listen. If you don't, if you won't, if you fail to understand, then the same incredible terror that's menacing me will strike at you!
The function of all life is survival. Sleep. Sleep. Sleep.
Oh, my God! Oh, my God! Lock the door. Lock the door.
They're coming! They're coming! Help! Help! They're coming! They're coming! Listen to me! Listen! Help me! You're next, please! Please! You're next! We're in danger! Please, listen to me! It's something terrible! Please! You're next! Here they are! They're already here! Come! You're next! They're coming! They're coming!
Sleep. The seed is planted. Sleep. Sleep. Terror grows. Sleep.
Elizabeth, wake up! Get you when you sleep! Sit up!
Invasion of the body snatchers.
All of a sudden, they're growing like parasites. Is it contagious?
Free all the homies!
It looked right at me. You need to get out.
You're looking at it as if it was human. It was not human.
Now, the classic fear begins to grow.
We're being cornered.
In a modern masterpiece of science fiction.
They're barricading the street.
Invasion of the body snatchers.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the Resistance. It's Alex Jones.
I'm so excited. The new product at InfoWarsLife.com in a glass bottle, 2-month servings, filled to the brim, filled to the absolute top, the real red pill. This is a heart and brain pill, a nootropic that doesn't have any stimulants in it. But boy, does it stimulate, because it's beyond that. Quite frankly, I just went off what I saw medical doctors prescribing to their patients, but it wasn't prescription, but they were charging people $100, $200 for the formulae. And I came up with our own formula, working with some scientists and developers, non-GMO, made right here in America, 120 capsules. And ladies and gentlemen, you add the pregnenolone to it, which is the precursor to all the hormones that your body has to have to even make the hormones in your glands. It is amazing. Red pill, now available at InfoWarsStore.com, and your purchase funds the operation.